April 29th, 2015. Board of Commissioners meeting to order. If we could all please rise. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking as he did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bonnie, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Lathrop,
I'm here.
Kropa,
Here.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Klaus,
Here.
Crawford,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Maxbauer.
Here. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the March 12th, 2015 minutes? Hearing none, they stand approved. Any changes to the March 20th, 2015 minutes? Hearing none, they stand approved. Any changes to the March 25th, 2015 minutes? Hearing none, they stand approved. Any changes to the April 13th, 2015 minutes?
Madam Chairman, I need to abstain from the April 14th meeting. I was not present.
All right, I will move to approve the April 13th special meeting minutes. Is there support?
All support.
Supported by Dr. Lathrop. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And Sonny Wheelock is noted as abstaining.
Thank you.
Any changes to the April 14th, 2015 minutes? They stand approved. This is our first opportunity for public comment. Bonnie, would you be so kind as to read the rules?
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act as amended. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. 1. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. 2. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. Chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. I've also added my little sign-in sheet over here in case there's quite a public comment. So if after you give your public comment, if you could just step back, print your name and your topic so that I spell your name correctly in the minutes. Thank you.
All right. Who's first? Mr. Nelson.
John Nelson, 4022 Incochee Crest Commons. As you know, but perhaps the public isn't aware, a county commission appointed committee has met twice to consider how to rewrite the county soil erosion and sedimentation ordinance to comply with state law known as Part 91. The ordinance was written some years ago by Maureen Templeton with many community stakeholders' input. We now are separating stormwater regulations from soil and sedimentation regulations as townships now regulate stormwater. The committee has decided to start with the Jackson County ordinance and try to modify it to fit Grand Traverse County's needs. My hope is that the triggers for a Part 91 permit presently in our existing ordinance remain. Those are, in addition to the proximity to water features, proximity to wetlands and designated drainages, soil considerations, and steep slopes. Furthermore, the county must employ highly trained people to implement the ordinance, and those people must have the support and direction of the county board through the county administrator to effectively protect our clean water resources. Thank you.
Thank you,
you.
John.
Please step forward.
My name is Mary Grover, 506 Fifth Street. My friends, you shocked the community when you summarily and without explanation voted not to renew the employment contract with Dave Benda, our county administrator controller. Many of us were surprised as we weren't aware of any previous public discussion or expression of your thinking. The only reason given was that the commission wanted to go in a different direction. May we know about what that direction might be? Perhaps it has to do with different budget philosophies. Will you tell us, the public, what these different philosophies are so that we might enter into the discussion? Many in the community, as well as at least one of your colleagues, have concluded that there were inappropriate private conversations that violated Michigan's open meetings law. Perhaps the conversations were one-on-one so that you didn't technically violate the law, but such private conversations surely violated the intent of the law. At this point, I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. However, what I know you violated is your duty as elected officials to always conduct yourselves so as to maintain public confidence in you, in this local government, and in the preservation of the public trust. This statement of duty to preserve the public trust in self-government is not a legal duty. It's in the ICMA Code of Ethics, to which members of ICMA, professional local government managers, are bound. Mr. Benda has been a member of ICMA for 28 years. Your duty to preserve the public trust in this local government, again, isn't a legal duty, but it's a duty I assumed you understood and believed in. Violation of this duty is the part of your action that is the most egregious to me. Democracy is a fragile system of self-governance that relies on the public's trust of you, the caretakers of this local government. In the future, I hope that you will base your actions on this essential duty as public office holders. Thank you.
Anyone else like to make public comment? Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
My name is Tom Case. I live at 5270 Circle Drive, East Bay Township. Commissioner Johnson, I wrote you an email on the 21st. Did you receive that?
I probably did.
Okay, I had several questions along the same topic as just discussed, and that is, what new direction is the county going in? And what conclusions did they reach that Mr. Benda could not go in that same direction? I watched the meeting on videotape, and if it was around the budget issue, Mr. Benda, I think, gave good advice that said, if you're going to take this new direction, you better have resources and commitments beyond his department to carry it out. And I didn't understand the urgency in dismissing Mr. Benda. I've read in the paper this could cost the county near $94,000 in severance pay. What is the urgency? We should take a hit of that magnitude. Why wouldn't we just allow the contract to lapse and pick his new successor in a more timely manner so there wouldn't be a gap in the county administration? Along those same lines, how did the majority of commissioners come to this abrupt decision with no prior discussion? If you watch the video, the resolution talks about not renewing the contract, but then it talks about a clause for claims resolution. I'm assuming that's part of a termination for cause. But how would you know that depth of that contract unless you hadn't prepared yourself prior to the meeting? So those are the questions from the last meeting. I think going forward, it'd be very important that any replacement procedures in selecting Mr. Benda's replacement be done in an open manner. We have qualifications required, the job description documented, and the criteria documented. I think the community would be very disappointed if a candidate were to appear miraculously somewhere and be brought into that position. Thank you.
Anyone else? David?
So David Graham, 1735 East Front in Traverse City. So I'm here this evening because I was troubled too by the same issue surrounding the open meetings, alleged Open Meetings Act violation and the non-renewal of Dave Benda's contract. As political figures, you all must be aware of the importance of perception. And while the Open Meetings Act admittedly allows elected officials to meet socially, as long as decisions are made in a public meeting, it is naive to think that people won't draw the conclusion that Benda's termination wasn't discussed in private. While the board is within its rights to choose a new county administrator, I feel the lack of discussion at last month's meeting and vague justifications were just unacceptable. And after this, considering the service that Dave has done for the community, I felt he deserved better. In closing, I feel the board owes Grand Traverse County citizens a better explanation as to why somebody with a history of good evaluations is no longer wanted, particularly when it will cost the county, if the numbers are correct in the paper, $96,000. And I would ask that this be revisited in this forum so the community can observe it. Thank you for your careful consideration on this matter, and thank you for your service to the community too. Good night.
Hello, it's David Petrov, 9980 Riley Road, Interlochen. I'd like to back up first to thanking John Nelson for his stand of trying to bring up a concern of a lot of us about things that are being changed on possibly in protecting our natural resources, wetlands, and runoff and stuff like that. But getting back into the Benda situation, it's interesting, and that's one of the things that it's making a lot of us nervous when we say we're trying to go into a different direction. What is this other direction that that somebody doesn't subscribe to? I can see that this board would be doing something correct if they have somebody who is part of the government here who is violating laws or violating the trust of people or violating acts like Open Meetings Acts. Those people should be fired or recalled if that's what it takes. But to say that we're going in a different direction and somebody doesn't appeal to us, that is like government overstepping its own bounds, and it seems there may be an attitude, which is what's making a lot of us nervous about not just one firing, but other things are going on, trying to override other decisions been made about bridges and things of that nature. Where we're going, it scares me, and I think it scares a lot of this audience out here. So please, let's get back to working with the people.
Anyone else? Going once?
Hello, my name is Tom Mayer, and I live at 612 Fifth Street. And I'm very concerned about the direction that the board is going in, and I'm glad that Sonny stood up and said something about it and filed a complaint, or started to at least. I had said before when I was in front of the board over the last 6 months that I think you need to police yourselves a little more. The public is losing their trust. It goes back to Jason Jones at Parks and Rec. I don't think he should have had to leave. The person before him, what was his name? Tim Schreiner. He also voiced his concerns after, I guess he felt safe to do it. They were voiced in the Traverse, the ticker, and Jason voiced his. And now Mr. Benda is going to be leaving. That's unfortunate. I understand that the HR director is going to be leaving. I don't know if that's true or not. I know you can't respond, right? But I think it's probably true. The on-again, off-again relationship with the Commission on Aging, something's going on there. I don't understand. I mean, how are you going to replace all these people? Anybody who's in a job search is going to probably do some research about our community, and I think it's becoming kind of embarrassing. I mean, what kind of candidates are we going to get for their replacements? What are we doing? I'm really upset upset about what's happening. And I think that you all know better than to gather in a group of 4 or 5. You've received training from the prosecutor's office, ironically, about the Open Meetings Act. I think you all should pay attention. Don't do those things. It's suspicious. We don't know what you're saying. We're not eavesdropping, obviously, but it's suspicious, especially when odd things happen following and, before and after those types of meetings, and the media's been covering it. It's unfortunate. I can't understand something that I heard on WTCM about a week or so ago, and I just happened to tune in because I feel like I should be. And it's a couple commissioners on the show with Norm Jones and someone else, and basically trashing out the local newspaper, telling people to cancel their subscriptions. Hey, does everybody know that this is going on? You're using the TCM as a mouthpiece to rail against people? And one commissioner in particular was sort of the darling of the Record Eagle in the last election. They endorsed you. So, wow, like this is like unbelievable, really, unbelievable. That's all I can say. And I wish that the community would stand up and have more people speak during public comment. 4, 5, 6, that's not even enough. I was hoping for like 20. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. That takes us to approval of the agenda. Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chairman, I would move to approve the agenda with the addition of the item number 28, the opting out of the contract renewal being added to the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Moved by Wheelock, supported by Dr. Lathrop. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. All right, that takes us to the consent calendar. Bonnie, it is now your turn.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. Receive and file. Number 1, resolution supporting the adoption of Proposal 15-1 from Ottawa County. Number 2, correspondence from Munson Healthcare, March 19th. Number 3, Pugsley Correctional Facility minutes of January 8th. Number 4, Community Collaborative minutes of January 22nd. Number 5, Area Agency on Aging minutes of February 5th. Number 6, Land Bank Authority minutes of February 11th. Number 7, Planning Commission minutes of February 17th. Number 8, Veterans Affairs minutes of February 19th. Number 9, Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency minutes of February 19th. Number 10, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority minutes of February 25th. Number 11, Human Services Board minutes of February 27th. Number 12, Community Corrections minutes of March 10th. Number 13, Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency minutes of March 19th. Number 14, Northern Lakes Community Mental Health minutes of March 19th. Approvals. The Public Health and Safety Committee did not meet in April. The Resource Management and Administration Committee recommends approval of the following. Number 15, revision of the Family Medical Leave Act policy. Number 16, Sheriff's Office surplus items. Number 17, appointment of jury board member. Number 18, Resource Recovery 2015 hauler licenses. The Ways and Means Committee recommends approval of the following. Number 19, office supply contract renewal with Office Depot. Number 20, acceptance of remonumentation grant for 2015. Number 21, approval of 2015 remonumentation service contracts. Number 22, resolution authorizing drain commissioner to require cash deposit to cover estimated preliminary costs. Number 23, resolution in support of eliminating the MPSCS subscriber fees. Number 24, budget adjustments. Number 25, approval of 4th of July fireworks funding. Number 26, approval of GFOA contract to provide advisory services related to the results-based budgeting project. Number 27, per diem policy amended April 29th. Number 28, resolution of intent not to enter into a new employment agreement with the county administrator controller.
All right. Would any member of the public like any item pulled from the consent calendar?
Number 27 and number 28.
27 and 28. Commissioners,
Number 26, please.
number 26. All right. I am pulling number 21. Staff? All right.
All set.
I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of items 21, 26, 27, and 28.
So moved. Support.
Moved by Dr. Johnson, supported by Commissioner Wheelock. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. All righty. That takes us to, darn, my glasses are in the car. Might know. That takes us to special orders of business. Julie?
Hi, good evening. My name is Julie Clark. I'm the Executive Director of Tart Trails, and I'm very happy to be in front of you tonight to share an update on a project that we're working on. Tonight, I'm going to just spend a couple minutes, I'll be pretty quick, just to give you an update on an effort that's been ongoing for about a year, and that's to put wayfinding along the Tart Trail within the county and the city, and along the Boardman Lake Trail as well. So I'll just give you a little bit of background on the project and where we are to date, and just brief updates for you. But we're really thrilled to be here tonight, and I appreciate Mr. Benda and Dean getting us on there, Mr. Bott, sorry, getting us on the agenda this evening. So signage along the Tart Trail. The Tart Trail has been in existence for over 20 years now. There are various sort of forms of signage that you might find as you make your way along the trail from Acme, actually all the way to Sutton's Bay. So focusing specifically tonight on the Tart Trail within the county, I'm going to tell you about what we're working on and some efforts that we'd like to partner with. So along the trail today, you'll find a very comfortable, inviting experience. However, there are some issues that you may notice. For example, we have great regulatory signage. You know when to stop, you know when to go, but you may not know what roads you're crossing. At most of our intersections, we don't have signage that lets a trail user know that they're encountering Garfield or that they may be crossing Hastings. We have great opportunities along some of the kiosks for interp, but that's been a little lackluster in the past couple years. We've done some as a friends group to help provide general directions, because a lot of times people are new to the community and trying to find their way. So we have had some routing signs that try to give the big picture scope, so that if you're in Acme, you know that you're going to Sutton's Bay, or you're in Traverse City, you know how to get to Acme. There are a lot of people who are using the trail. There are over 200,000 visits each year on the trail. We get all types of folks who are out using the trail, whether it's for a run or a walk, a bike. They're with their family, they're avoiding their family, whatever they're doing on the trail. We have bicyclists, runners, walkers, dog walkers. We have visitors, lots and lots of visitors who come to the trail. And what these people want, I think what we all want when we're on the trail, is a safe and enjoyable experience. And we believe the signage project, the improved signage project that we're going to talk a little bit about tonight, will help provide a better trail experience for those over 200,000 visits that we get each year. There's also another opportunity that wayfinding and signage will help us provide. As we've grown over these past 20 years, the trails have grown too. So they've expanded in their reach, and they've also expanded in their use. For example, you may not be aware that the Leelanau Trail and the Tart Trail are part of what's called the U.S. Bicycle Route System. That's a national system of bike routes. U.S. Bike Route 35 was designated in our area a couple of years ago, and MDOT has gotten to signing their sections of roadways, and we've signed ours, and so the Tart Trail is a piece of that what is now national infrastructure. So it's a great opportunity to market the trails better, to market our region better, to tell a story. And that's the other opportunity that we have with new signage, to tell the story of the trails, to tell what it really took to put these on the ground and how they're maintained. So it's a great opportunity to talk about the investment that this community has made in the trail system. And maybe most importantly, it's an opportunity to let all those visitors know what's just off the trail. If you've ridden the Tart Trail, you kind of know how it feels. It's a bit of a back door. If you've driven down US 31 pre-construction, you might notice there are a lot of people walking and biking on 31 looking for some fantastic amenities. And I think most of us, when we see those people, we just want to say, do you know the trails right next door? And what we've noticed and what we've heard back from users are they don't know that they can access all these restaurants and hotels and amenities that are right off the trail because there's no information on the trail to help provide what's really simple direction and opportunities to shop at our local stores, to visit great nature preserves that are all along the way, to be able to access some of our wonderful recreational opportunities that are right off the trail, and frankly, to support the businesses. The trail signage is a great way to help make a better experience for both our trail visitors and the neighborhood shops around it. So about 2 years ago, when the Leelanau Trail was finished, we put a new signage system. So Tart Trails developed a new signage system for the Leelanau Trail. And when that was designed, it was designed so that it would be regional in nature. Because what we know is that trail users don't really care what trail they're on. They just want to have a nice experience and go wherever they want to go. What we do know is that sometimes they have no idea where they are. So that signage that we put on the trail was a great way to tell users where they are, both for their comfort, for safety as well. Say you get hurt, you want to know what the last road crossing was, not just some random country road that you went across. And you also want an opportunity to tell people, maybe you want to pick me up here at this road. So it's a great amenity, and it's also a really important safety factor, we feel. It was also an opportunity for us to deal with some issues that we were having on the trail. Sometimes they were speeding issues. Sometimes they were, what's a delicate way to say this? Picking up after your pet issues. So we had an opportunity to design some signage that could speak to specific trail issues that we were seeing along the trail. The new signage is what we're proposing continues, again, from Carter Road, where we stopped the Leelanau Trail signage, over into the city and the county. We've been working with the city, DPW, and county staff as well to make sure that the signage that was developed would fit the character and address the content that needs to be addressed along the Tart Trail and Boardman Lake Trail. So the signage itself is pretty simple. You're seeing actual kind of pictures of what's on the ground today. It's pretty maintenance-free. We have a volunteer system for the Leelanau Trail. It's all volunteers, and they're able to take care of the signage. It's all manufactured locally, and it's really easy to replace. So we took into concern maintenance and sort of simplicity issues. Also, what we were able to do is incorporate some small sponsorship opportunities. So on some of these signs, there's the ability to have a local business or group adopt a sign. And so for that, they would pay an annual sponsorship fee. What we're working on with the city and what we'd like to continue to work on with the county is to develop a partnership whereby a portion of these sponsorship fees would be given directly to the county to help sustain long-term maintenance of the signage. So what we recognize is there's a need. We would really like to have people feel comfortable and safe and get to where they want to go on and off the trail. But we also recognize that this is infrastructure, and with infrastructure comes maintenance costs. And so what we're proposing is an opportunity to help cover some of those long-term maintenance costs. And so that's tonight, just a brief, here's what's going on. We're looking forward to continuing to working with the staff to put together a partnership agreement to bring to you for future consideration. The timeline that we have is pretty aggressive. We'd really like to get this fabricated and installed this summer. So we'll be looking forward to presenting to you again. But tonight was just an introduction and letting you know that this is a partnership we'd like to pursue.
All right, do we have any questions for Julie?
question.
Elisa?
Well, it's kind of a question.
Sure.
First of all, Julie, thank you, and I saw that you were going to be on the agenda, and I assumed it was about another item, but when I read my packet, it was about signs, which was great. But if you don't mind, real quick, if I just ask, we've, at the county board, been receiving quite a few emails about the Boardman Lake Trail.
Oh.
And as you know, I'm a really big supporter of finishing the Boardman Lake Trail. I was wondering, as eloquent and nicely done as the emails were, I wasn't certain exactly what the desire is from the county board in that project, so.
I'll try to address that. That's actually coming from the Grand Valley State University. There's a small group of students who actually did a project on the Boardman Lake Trail this year as part of their studies. And so what they're looking to do is kind of put a megaphone to the efforts of trail development along West Boardman Lake Trail. So they had a summit. They hosted a summit where, I admit, if you put a microphone in front of me, I get kind of excited and want people to help spread their voices. So what Grand Valley State did is say, okay, how do we help get this trail on the ground? Because the trail crosses into multiple jurisdictions, the thought was they should talk to everybody.
Okay, so there wasn't a specific
There's
need
not
from
a
the county
specific
board at
ask
the
from the
time.
county,
Okay.
just letting you know that people in your area are very interested in the
Okay, well,
trail.
that's great. Well, I read them all and enjoyed them and agreed with all of them. So I was
Wonderful.
hoping that there was something I could do to help with that, but apparently now is not the time, so.
One day, I would like to
One
be
day.
before you again. One day
Yep.
soon, I would like to be before you again, because the city and the township have done a fabulous job of trying to put together a plan to get that trail on the ground, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wheelock?
I would note, in regard to the Boardman Lake Trail, the Grand Traverse County Land Bank holds part of the property and easement on behalf of the city of Traverse City for the future development of that trail.
All right. I guess that's it. Thank you, Julie.
Well, you're welcome. I'm looking forward to coming back and having an agreement for you guys to just sign off on.
That brings us to items removed from the consent calendar, and I removed 21, the remonumentation service contract. This was a contract, and there was no discussion, so I thought now is the time to have a discussion, even though I was not in the majority. The remonumentation service contract, for those who are wondering why I voted against it, is Dennis Aloya pointed this out to me many, many years ago, that the county surveyor awards himself the contract work. And it just, it just doesn't set well with me. That it's not that I think that the county surveyor is doing a bad job, or, it's just, it doesn't sit well with me. So that's why I voted no on the remonumentation service contract. If anyone wants to speak to why they voted in favor of the remonumentation service contract, you're certainly welcome to. Commissioner Wheelock.
Madam Chairman, I would move to approve the remonumentation contract. As you note, Bob Mitchell, who is the county surveyor, is being assigned as part of this annual contract 14 corners. Gosling Zubrak, another registered survey company in our community, is getting 14 corners. Gordy Frazier, another company, is getting 14 corners. And Corey Hughes, an independent surveyor, is being appointed as the fourth member of the peer review committee. This is how many, we get a grant to locate these corners. And each year, I believe, to the best of my knowledge, these are the qualified firms in our community to complete this work, and they are spread amongst all 4 qualified firms.
Is there support? Supported by Dr. Johnson. Further discussion?
Yeah, there's probably not that many people that are qualified to do it. I'm not sure how many are available that can do that, or if anybody has that answer, but there's probably not a whole lot that.
We have
Okay.
staff here that can,
Bob's here,
Give me some background on
Reiner's
what they've
here,
done.
if they'd like to make a...
Reiner,
use the
microphone.
don't do this very often. My name is Reiner Reichert, and I'm a GIS analyst, but I'm also the grant administrator. The firms that are, according to the plan, a QBS, it's a qualified base selection, was done. And 3 firms were selected, which means that you work with those 3 firms only, once they're selected, and negotiate with, with those 3 firms. It's not a go out for a bid with everybody. Once you go through the process, unless you go through another QBS. So the 3 firms were selected. Just to kind of let you know, cost-wise, for the monumentation, for the research, and for the recording fees, the state, I always, check with the state about our cost. And through 2013, we were at $1,100 a corner, and the state average was $1,056. We were really close. This year proposed, the state per corner, this is from the director of remonumentation, is $1,150, and we're still holding the $1,100 for the research, the actual remonumentation and the recording. The peer review is a kind of a separate item that we've actually reduced the cost in past years, and we're holding the same value. And this year, we're actually required to do GPSing, and that was a concern we had in the past. The state has lowered the requirements from static, really, precision GPSing to down to within a foot. And I think they're trying to get, these coordinates and get this whole program done. And just to let you know where we stand also, through 2013, the state was 61% complete. So performance-wise, we were at 74%. And through our completion report, which I just filed, we're up to 78%. So, we're about 25%, I count, roughly ahead. So I think, performance-wise, we're doing well. We're right average as far as the cost. So I hope I answered.
Reiner, does this work been completed this spring, or are we going to do it in the fall? Because we can't do it when the leaves are on, right? Have you done the work yet this year, Bob, or you won't do it until fall? Right. Because I know we can't do, a lot of it we can't do when the leaves are on.
Preliminary itinerary to the state with a grant application.
Bob,
I'm sorry, Bob.
if you're going to speak to Commissioner Wheelock, the microphone, please.
I'm Robert Mitchell from Kingsley, the county surveyor. We send, along with a grant application, a list of corners that we're going to do for the upcoming year and designate at that time the surveyors that are going to be doing all the corners. For a clarification, I don't set the price for the corners. I never have. I never have done any of that. With Mac McCullen, when we first started this program in 94 or 93, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure how he came up with a price. I don't remember. But the price has always been established by the county. I've never had any input other than they asked me, we've held it, some years we've held it, I said, it's going fine. The contractors are fine with the price. Sometimes we've held it for 2 or 3 years at a time. That's the only input I've had on it. And when we send that information to the state, we send it in, the surveyors, the corners are going to be done, the amount it's going to cost and everything, and their budget grant is approved based on that document. So if we're going to do something different in other years or forthcoming, then we need to do something in the summer or late fall before December so that we have the right information to submit to the state for the grant.
All right. Anyone else?
Any questions?
Okay. Bonnie, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Croppa,
No.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Klaus,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lathrop,
No.
Max Bauer.
No. Motion passes. All right, next item, number 26. That would be you, Commissioner Wheelock.
I'm sorry, Madam Chairman. This would be the item in regard to the hiring the GFOA contract to provide advisory services related to results-based budgeting. On January 2nd at our organizational meeting, I asked that we immediately schedule a strategic planning session. When we first had the discussion about hiring the GFOA to come in for this, I again said we needed to do the strategic plan first. We have not done the strategic plan. We've heard a lot recently about a new direction. We have not identified what that direction is. I believe that we need to do the strategic plan first. So I will not be supporting this contract.
Okay. I would like to take this opportunity to speak a little bit about what budgeting for priorities is and what it isn't. I think the best example, if you take a look on your web, the best example of budgeting for by priorities is the city of Redmond, Washington. And it's a process that's transparent to the public, it's open to the public, there's citizen participation, and it starts with citizen priorities. Citizens are heavily involved in the budgeting process, and they are not now. You may disagree and say it's not the citizens' job to be involved with the budgeting process, but I happen to feel they should be. And this is a process that has been used successfully in many, many, many different organizations. School systems, states, cities. It's an organizational process that that works, and it shows taxpayers what you are getting for your money, which is why it's called results-based budgeting. If anybody wants to, I'll set this over. I've only got one copy of this that I brought tonight, but if anyone wants to take a look at it, the City of Redmond aligns their budget with citizen priorities. They measure progress towards those priorities. They get the best value for each tax dollar. They actually have teams that decide how to get the best value for the tax dollar for the service that is being provided. And it builds regional cooperation. It's a process that it's new, it's different, it's a different direction. It's not what we have done in the past. What we have done in the past, and I want everyone to understand, I've been talking about this isn't new, since 2008. The City of Traverse City had a Citizens Operation Finance group. It was called COFAC. And COFAC actually recommended budgeting for outcomes for the City of Traverse City. It was never implemented, but it was recommended by COFAC. I'm trying to think, the way we do things right now, if we had started this in 2008, I don't think we would have added the $6 to $7 million to our unfunded pension liability that we did add by budgeting the old way, by looking at things the old way. That's just my opinion. There's no way to show you that if we would have done this back in 2008, that the unfunded pension liability wouldn't have grown. But what I hope to accomplish by starting now is to show you by the end of 2016 real results, what you're going to see for your money. This process empowers employees. Redmond has has like a 96% retention rate of their employees. Their employees love this. And it's good for everyone. Now, I guess I will therefore make the motion that we, where is it in front of me? Oh, here it is. I will make the motion that we approve the Governmental Finance Officers Association contract to provide advisory services related to the results-based budgeting project. Is there support? Supported by Dr. Johnson. Are there any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Crawford, then Dr. Johnson, then Dr. Lathrop.
I've read quite a bit about this. There's no reason, the results-based budgeting is something that's used in business all the time. There's no reason that we can't apply some of best business practices to government. That is my opinion. Also, in the process of the results-based budgeting, the strategic plan is revised as you go. It's all part of the process. It's not, you have to have a strategic plan in place already to do the results-based budgeting. It all gets done at the same time. If you're going to ask, in order to do a strategic plan, you ask the citizens what they want. That's what we're doing. So it's a process that's all together. It is not two separate things.
Dr. Johnson?
Pretty much said what I was going to say. I mean, I agree that we do need to get the strategic plan going. I mean, the glacial speed that things move around here. I mean, it could be the end of the year before we get that, so I support this.
Dr. Lathrop?
I'm excited about budgeting for outcomes. It's what I got elected on twice, and I love it because it involves the community first. It reaches out and embraces the community, makes us put our citizens' hat on. Also, I want to comfort our employees. It does the same thing with them. It reaches down into the ranks and tries to glean their knowledge about how we can best serve citizens. And then what it does too is GFOA is going to be a consultant. They're the America's leaders in this, and they will be advising us. And one of the things they're going to advise us about is setting our priorities. So the first step is we figure out how much money do we have to give services to our citizens. The second step is through the teamwork of our community and our employees, we come up with the priorities, we come up with the services and the programs that our community wants, and then we prioritize them. And there lies in our strategic plan. After we do that, we realize we can't be everything to everybody. We only have so much money. But after we do that, then we figure out realistic ways to evaluate our progress quarterly. And that's a moving target. It'll change. This is, I think, a 3 to 10 year thing, but it's a way to, you can't manage what you can't measure. So it's a way to put our citizens' hat on, engage our citizens. I think the problem is that we haven't gotten our message out to the public. I think you guys should be excited about it. And when GFOA comes here, one of the things they're going to teach us is how to embrace the community, how to embrace our employees, and how to work as a team on this. So it's nothing to be afraid of. This is a wonderful thing, and we're looking to do good for our citizens that bear the brunt of all these services. We want to do what they want and what they need at a price they can afford.
Government Finance Officers Association recommends this process for all organizations, especially organizations that have debt that needs to be managed. And Grand Traverse County has debt that needs to be managed. So, at that, Bonnie, if you would call a roll.
Commissioner Wheelock?
No.
Klaus?
No.
Crawford?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yeah.
Kropa?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes, motion passes. All right, number 27, per diem policy. Mr. Lemkool, come on up.
Thank you. Herb Lemkool, 907 Meadow Drive. I just think that when you're looking at your per diem policy, I think you should have gone another step further and looked at the health insurance and your whole compensation. This is a thing that's been very much inequitable throughout many years throughout the county. Some commissioners take health insurance, some don't. Some get a payment in lieu of not taking the health insurance, and that's the thing that really gets into it. If you're looking at compensation, you should look at putting it all together under one roof and decide to do it as one paycheck. When you're doing per diems, you're putting burdens on the county department, your payroll department, because they have to go through and calculate that and then get it approved and then write a separate check. If you only did just one check, I think you need to go back and look at it and determine how you can do that with just one check and make it a payroll check. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment on per diems?
Tom Case, 5270 Circle Drive again. When I was in business, per diem was an accounting shortcut to reimburse employees for expenses incurred out of pocket for things like meals and laundry. And the reason they call it per diem is it usually accounted for the things that you would incur in one day. So I don't know how it got contorted in this policy to look like a stipend for attending a meeting. I know in the past some commissioners abused it. They were putting in a per diem for making a phone call. I don't think that's the intention of per diem. So I understand reimbursing the commissioners for expenses out of pocket, but if attending a meeting is to be intended to be a paid event, I think, as Mr. Lemkool stated, the whole system needs to be readdressed. And it was a big discrepancy. Some commissioners are down in the hundreds of dollars and others are in the thousands of dollars of per diems. And I think that ought to be adjusted so that it's a clear policy. And I would suggest a policy that says if you're going to reimburse somebody for expenses, that's what a per diem is for. But if you want to reimburse them for attending a meeting, write that up as something different. Thank you.
Mr. Nelson?
John Nelson, 4022 Incochee Crest Commons. I can't think of another profession, avocation, or service job that receives benefits and a salary where then included in that or additionally to that required meetings then receive a stipend. I just don't understand that. It's been something that it's been important to me to raise. If you feel you need more remuneration for your work, then raise your salary. But to have to take required meetings and get money for your required meetings just doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Sonny? And then Commissioner Klaus?
In 2012, when the, Bob could tell me what the name of the tamer is, all of a sudden I can't remember. Anyway, when it was determined that the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners should go from 9 meetings to 7, I suggested at that time that we take the compensation, total compensation for the 9 commissioners in the previous year and divide that by 7, and that be the compensation for the new commissioners. Again, in 2014, I made the same suggestion that we eliminate the per diem altogether and we just take the average compensation to commissioners, or we pick a number and that money is paid the same. Each of us is elected to represent the same number of citizens in Grand Traverse County, and I probably attend, in fact, I know I attend less meetings than a lot of the other members, but the fact is I still represent the same number of people in Grand Traverse County. We've talked about the health insurance thing that Herb mentioned. We've talked about it for years. I have never taken county health insurance in the 16 years plus that I've been here. That being said, out of my pocket, I've spent $100,000 on health insurance for myself and my family in that length of time. The fact that, a few years ago, and we've probably been doing the payment in lieu of insurance for maybe 5 years now. It was $1,000, now it's $2,000. But somewhere in that neighborhood, 5 years. The $2,000 that I receive in payment of lieu of receiving health insurance benefits for myself, when I was elected, it included not only myself but my entire family. But that $2,000 payment in lieu goes through the payroll system, so I get to pay income tax and Social Security and Medicare and all of that on it. So the $2,000 payment in lieu of tax or benefit that comes to me in December, I believe was about $1,638 last year. So, I've always supported getting rid of the per diems altogether. If we're going to retain the per diems, I understand the logic for removing the cap. There are a lot of times that we, as commissioners, will sit on 2 or 3 different meetings in a single day. The daily cap was $90. So you get paid $35 for the 7:30 in the morning meeting, you get $35 for the 1 o'clock meeting, but the meeting at 7 o'clock at night, you get $20 for. So, I just, all in all, eventually I would like to get to the point we eliminate the per diems altogether and we have a standardized salary for all commissioners.
Commissioner Klaus?
When I was looking at this, I was just expecting that the cap was not removed, and I know it's removed, but I was thinking that it was just an extra $15 for 3 meetings we'd be looking at. I never expected that somebody could go to 4, 5, 6, just make quick meetings in and out, and I don't believe any of us are doing that, but I think that we owe that to put a cap on it, even if it's $105 instead of the $90, just so that in the future, if we have per diems, it's capped at that. So I just, if we've got a 4th meeting we have to attend, we've ran for this elected office, and I think we just owe it to the citizens to go.
Dr. Johnson?
Yeah, personally, I'd rather see one flat fee too, and I don't even mess with all the paperwork. But the other part of this is, if you read that in the Record Eagle, of course, they sensationalized all the money we're getting, but what they didn't say was how many meetings have we attended. So it looks like there's a great disparity, when the fact is a lot of us are attending a lot more meetings, and that's why we're getting paid for it. I do think we need to raise the cap. It does not affect that many people, and it won't add that much more, but if you do go to more than 3 meetings a day, I think you've earned it. But again, I just soon see one flat rate too.
But I'll speak to this because I happen to believe in per diems. First of all, you need to know that not just county commissioners get per diems. Our county administrator gets per diems. In 2008, the Board of Commissioners expenditures was $535,741.23. And in 2014, the budget was $391,627. I would have been able, if I could have found, my niece is staying with me right now, and so I had to move all my budget books in the basement, and those were the easiest budget books for me to find. I couldn't find the 2015 one. But that is it's about $140,000 reduction in expenses the Board of Commissioners has done. We are the only department in the county that has taken salary and benefit cuts, and we have. I believe you get paid for the work you do. Now, when I go to a Michigan Association of Counties meeting, I leave at 6 in the morning. I get back at 3 in the afternoon. I get $35. I don't make minimum wage on days that I go to Lansing. I also believe that there should be an incentive for commissioners who have to go to more meetings than others. For instance, I represent the city and Garfield Township. Dr. Johnson, how many?
6.
He goes to 6 townships. I think it's a fair way to compensate people. I believe in being paid for working. I don't believe in being paid for I guess I've said all I need to say. On that note, do I have a motion to remove the cap on per diems?
I will move to accept the per diem policy as presented.
Is there support?
Yes.
Roll call, please, Bonnie.
Klaus?
No.
Crawford?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Cropa?
Yes.
Wheelock?
No.
Max Bauer?
Yes. All right, number 28. Herb.
You're not supposed to do a handout.
Herb Lemkool, 907 Meadow Drive. I'm here to talk about the process that has happened on the removal of Mr. Benda. Honorable Commissioners, on behalf of the former Grand Traverse County Commissioners, we're requesting that Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners consider delaying final action concerning the non-renewal of the county administrator's contract until the regular scheduled meeting in May. We firmly believe further public review would help restore citizen confidence in the decisions you are entrusted to make and provide the opportunity to discuss the plans for internal leadership and the process for search for a permanent replacement. 18 former commissioners endorsed this letter and collectively over 170 years of service to the citizens of Grand Traverse County. We would support and attend public forum to provide advice, counsel to the current board on community county issues such as loss of key staff, employee morale, public trust, reinforcing public decision-making. We hope you can appreciate our genuine concern that we sincerely appreciate your consideration of our request. This is signed by 18 commissioners. So I would encourage you to do something. I think you've lost the credibility with the citizens. I think you've lost it with the employees, and I know you've lost it with the media. We had a great relationship with the media, and you've lost it. So I think it's time for you to step back, figure out what it's going to do. You have not even put a budget item for budgeting out for outcomes. It's already cost you over $90,000, just the way you're doing the process. I really strongly urge you to hold back, reconsider, and put it on hold until next month so the public can have a good public comment on this. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else, would anyone else like to speak to this?
Matthew Shuck, 306 West 9th Street. I spoke to this board before relative to Mr. Benda and his proposal to increase the staff of administration. And at that time, I thought it was a little odd that there seemed to be a breakdown in communication, but I felt that it was incumbent upon Mr. Benda to really, if he was overworked and he made his proposal was to increase staffing, I think assistant administrator. And I was beginning to, this was like, 4 months ago? I think it was first brought out, and then it was brought out again at another meeting. And I know much has been made in the media, but you know, when people don't come to the meetings and they only catch an action item, and then they can, I think, get bent out of shape over something that really they had an opportunity to be here and question some of the things that have already taken place. And especially when, you know, we talk about a new direction, and I thought the new direction, as I was understanding it, is that to make county government more efficient and less costly. And excuse me if I was reading into that, by expanding administrative cost wasn't making it more efficient for sure. And you know, a lot of the costs that county government has already been built in by previous administrations, even some of those administrations that signed a letter here that we have such an unfunded pension liability that's already mentioned, and that hasn't been, for the most part, you guys' fault. Okay? So I would like to see a little more reasoning as well in what you do, but I thought you guys were, as a board, were right on, and you could tell me privately if I was off base a little bit here in extrapolating what Mr. Benda's proposal was, 3 months ago, about increasing staffing. Anyway, that's what I had to say on it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. I will move to enter into a resolution of intent not to enter into a new employment agreement with the county administrator controller. Is there support?
I support.
Now is our opportunity for discussion. Commissioner Wheelock.
You know, as I sat home this weekend and I read our 2014 annual report, we eliminate $1 million worth of structural deficit. We negotiate 13 labor contracts. We get concessions from our people that keep our health insurance in line. We add, I don't know,
Commissioner Wheelock, if you want to enter into a performance discussion with Mr. Benda,
ma'am, if you will allow me, I believe I have the floor,
I want to
please.
check with legal counsel, please.
I believe I have the floor, please. My point is, when I review the performance of the administrator, I believe that he, other commissioners, and the public deserve to have an explanation of why you choose not to renew his contract. Just simply the idea of reading a motion and terminating his contract without an explanation is not acceptable to me. You know, and I know there's been a lot of stuff going on and stuff in the newspaper and on the news media about private meetings, whatever. And as you know, and I will certainly acknowledge, I asked Bob Cooney as our county prosecutor to investigate the possibility if there was a violation of the Open Meetings Act. I never said what commissioners met where or which commissioners or where they met. All I did was ask whether there could have been a violation of the Open Meetings Act, because the fact is we did not deliberate on this issue in public. So the question is, was there deliberation in private? Because if we did not deliberate on this issue publicly and we did not deliberate on it privately, then we didn't do our job as commissioners and truly evaluate the pros and cons of why we were canceling this contract.
I would be more than happy to explain my vote. First of all, I want it clear that we did not fire Mr. Benda. We simply notified him that we were not going to renew his contract. And Mr. Benda had an option to stay until the end of his contract, December 31st. The reason that I voted to not renew his contract was due to the many discussions that Dave and I had about results-based budgeting. He was not enthusiastic and pointed out a couple of places where the budgeting process failed. Where it fails, in my opinion, in my view, in my research, is when you have someone who is not enthusiastic and championing, and I'll get it out, my mouth is getting a little dry, championing the process. And I did not view Mr. Benda as being a champion of the results-based budgeting process. That was my sole reason for voting to not renew his contract. The other part of this is when I went into a meeting with Mr. Benda and Mr. Forsyth on the 21st to discuss his departure date. I was aware that Dave had applied for the position of city manager. Grand Traverse County is presently negotiating contracts with the city of Traverse City. And it does not behoove Grand Traverse County, doesn't benefit Grand Traverse County residents to have a county administrator negotiating with the city where he wants to get a job. It doesn't work. And that is the reason behind the May 1st. We had to notify him by July 1st. I thought that April was being especially, well, we would know one way or another. I thought it was being extraordinarily considerate to Mr. Benda. He could have stayed until December 31st. So that was my reasoning. And I did not violate the Open Meetings Act, and I sincerely hope that I get a call tomorrow morning from the Michigan State Police so I can end this. So if you can tell me who I need to call so I can get on their front doorstep tomorrow morning, let me know, please. Dr. Lathrop.
I'm glad to address this to the public. I campaigned, my holy grail, from the very beginning. My dream was budget for outcomes. I read the books, Price of Government and Boards That Make a Difference, and I was very excited about trying to get this efficiency and effectiveness somewhere into the county. I got elected twice on this format. Turns out I got assigned to BETA, Bay Area Transit Authority, and I went there because it was Wednesday and that was my day off. I didn't necessarily care about BETA, but all of a sudden I met Tom Menzel, who is living proof of this method. He's done it as a mayor in a big city outside Chicago for 8 years. He's done it for our Cherry Festival. He's done it for BETA. And I sit on this board, it's like an MBA class. He's really instituting these beautiful concepts. So I thought it was cool. And I brought him and his staff in to meet Dave's staff and discuss this wonderful concept. And Dave made it clear then, he wasn't, I'm not disparaging him. He made it clear he wasn't interested in budgeting for outcomes. So for me, that was a bit of a strike one. Later on in the year, I was, last board, I was trying to get bits and pieces of budgeting for outcomes in, and I was quoting from Hutchinson's book. By the way, I did talk to those people, even one of the authors, and I did talk with other townships, other municipalities that have used budget for outcomes successfully. But anyway, right here in front of the camera, I was talking about budgeting for outcomes, the book, and Dave says, "You're quoting from that book." I'm not quoting Dave, I'm paraphrasing because he's quoting from, Dan is quoting from this book about budgeting for outcomes, and budgeting for outcomes doesn't work for counties. Well, that was strike two for me because my whole promise to my citizens was I'm going to try to get budgeting for outcomes involved in our government. Well, then next comes the evaluation of Dave on the old board, and I gave him the lowest score of all. And I mentioned and that was a public document, ladies and gentlemen. It was not in private. I think the Record Eagle even mentioned me. And the reason I didn't bring it up on camera is that I didn't want to disparage Dave. And I did meet with him privately. We had some spirited discussions, and he's always been a gentleman. I think he's intelligent. I think he's sincere. And he told me some things he thought I was doing wrong, and I told him frankly that I want him to adopt budgeting for outcomes or I'm not going to support it. So this for me has been a very public process, and I have approached Dave spiritedly several times, and every time he's rejected it. Now, fast forward to the budgeting for outcomes presentation. Mr. Muhal did a wonderful job, and there's a lot of community exchange. We had employees talk, we had department heads talk, we had Dave ask questions, we all asked questions. The only person that wasn't here was Sonny, and but it was unanimously passed that we adopt this type of budgeting to help us out of the troubles we're in. We're $44 million in debt. So During that time, we discussed this several times, and every time we discussed it, in front of the camera, I said, in order for this to work, we have to have an administrator who wholeheartedly embraces this. It won't work otherwise. That's the least we have to have to make this work. And I never saw Dave stand up and say, hey, I'm your man. I'm going to do this. I'm for it. He was reluctant. And that was like strike number 4. So when it came time to vote for this, I didn't need to deliberate. I think I knew when I got here how I was going to vote. And I think how I dealt with it was very public. No one needed to guess what I was thinking about whether or not I'd extend Dave Benda's contract. I told him personally I would not, and I made it clear that I was for budgeting for outcomes from day one. I approached him personally several times. My evaluation of Dave was very public. It was in the newspaper. So to say that we didn't have public process or that we weren't telling people how we felt, I don't think is right. When that meeting came, I was chair of the meeting. I was taught by Bob Cooney, maybe I'm wrong on this, that I remember saying, I want to do this right. And the way you start a discussion, you're supposed to start it with a motion. So I said, does anyone have a motion? Well, Christine had a motion, and I was surprised it was so well done and so legal, but I had no knowledge of that. But when I look into my crystal ball, and you listen to the things that Commissioner Kropa has said on camera, Commissioner Max Bauer has said on camera, Commissioner Crawford has said on camera, Commissioner Johnson has said on camera, and I didn't even have to guess what he said it in the paper. So it takes 4 people to not renew Dave Benda's contract. It really isn't rocket science to calculate that probably it's not going to be renewed. It doesn't require secret meetings to think that out. On the night of the vote, I had no idea who would vote in what way. I had my guesses. I was surprised, too, that it happened so fast. One explanation would be perhaps Sonny's suspicion that we're doing conspiratorial secret meetings. The other one, it could be that we all a bunch of us made up our minds ahead of time. Maybe some of us made up our minds that meeting according to what Dave said. I think that it's just as easy to assume that we went through public process. For me, it was 2.5 years. For Christine, it was 8 years. We made our intentions clear. We did our evaluations. And what is the use of disparaging, what is the use of disparaging Dave in public? I didn't want to do that. So I voted my vote, and I didn't say much about it. But I felt I did my duty publicly before that.
Dr. Johnson and Commissioner Crawford?
If you looked at when I ran, I said we need new leadership. Since I've been elected, if you were at any of my village and township meetings, I said we needed new leadership. I did not feel that the meeting the last 2 weeks was the time and place to have an open discussion about performance. Mine is not really based on the budgeting as much as other performance issues. And I have several. But it's not the place here to go into public. I don't think anybody in this audience would love to have their job performance done in public. I had many reasons, and again, we did not meet. I wasn't even there at the dinner, but yet I've gotten lumped into that now. The 4 or 5, as I believe Mr. Case mentioned, or somebody mentioned, So I wasn't even at the 2 dinners that they had, but yet I'm lumped into the violating Open Meetings Act. I heard about somebody mentioned about the contract, how much money You know, we do have Commissioner Lemkohl to thank for that, as well as Sonny. That's part of what our direction is going to do away with these contracts. Who in here owns a business is going to pay somebody 6 months of wages if they don't renew a contract? He can walk away and he gets 6 months of wages. That is not looking out for the county. The direction this board is going is looking out for the county. We have the unfunded budget liability that we're looking at, trying to figure out what to do. Our direction is to look out for this county, to bring business principles to this county, to stop with the good old boy method that has been going on for years in this county. And I mean, I've only been here 4 months, and I've seen so many contracts now that it's a farce. I mean, you could almost build a case to say that their fiduciary responsibility was not there for the county. And again, this, you know, yeah, we're gonna have to pay them $90-something thousand, but that was done by previous boards. And it's still gonna come down to us. You know, we're gonna be the baddies in the county to say, oh, you guys cost us this much money. But no, it was the board members that voted for this 3 years ago.
It wasn't me.
It was not a good contract. And I challenge anyone to say it's a good contract. So.
Commissioner Crawford.
Okay. First of all, at the meeting 2 weeks ago, I was part of a conversation. I came, just like I came today, with my yellow piece of paper that I almost always come with my notes written out and my questions. And I asked the question that was uppermost in my mind, and I got my answer. It wasn't the answer that I was looking for, but I felt it was an honest answer that Dave gave. And I do appreciate his honesty because he knows what I was looking for. And I'm sure he thought, I can answer this way and I might get her vote. And he would have. And he knows that. So I got an honest and forthright answer from him, and I appreciate that. I felt that I was part of a conversation. After my question, it stopped. I didn't know why it stopped. Now I do. Now I've heard. I didn't know at the time why it stopped. I was fairly surprised that that was all. But as for me, I came with questions, several of them, and I am, well, I had it written down. I have been watching and listening for months, not just the months that I was elected, since I've been elected, last year, months, watching and listening very carefully to what was going on. I do think that you can bring best business practices to government. We've seen time after time, department heads come to us saying, this is going to make our department more efficient. I want to move this person this way and this person this way so that we can make things more efficient. I like that. There's resistance to that. There's comments like, that's not the way it's done. But that's the way it could be done. And that's the way I think I want things to be done, in a more efficient way, more thoughtful about how things are organized and arranged, rather than, well, that's the way it's always been done, so that's the way we're going to do it. I also didn't mention it 2 weeks ago, but I didn't really like how the CPO contracts were being negotiated. I think that it's a mutually beneficial thing, and it turned adversarial, and I didn't like that very much. So I didn't say that 2 weeks ago. I suppose I should have. I guess I have just one other comment. I am absolutely capable of making my own decisions. I can't be swayed. I can't be manipulated. To say that because I'm new, I have no idea of what I'm doing or don't really have the ability to make these decisions, that's very insulting. And it's very not true. I also did not violate the Open Meetings Act in any way. And I can't wait to be able to tell someone, the moment I can't, but to be able to tell someone exactly exactly what has transpired, because it's really nothing. So I guess that's it. Thank you.
I would like to answer why I came prepared, why I had a piece of paper in front of me. This is a legal contract that the county has with the administrator. Who ends a legal contract without legal representation? And our legal representation is Mr. Cooney's office. That evening, it was Mr. Forsyth. That motion was written out for me on, and I still have it, on prosecutor stationery, as it should have been, because you simply do not make a motion on a legal matter, on a contract, without knowing exactly what you are supposed to say. And that is why I had that piece of paper in front of me. Commissioner Kropa.
Well, I guess it's time to talk.
Take a breath.
So years ago, I decided I wanted to be a county commissioner. 21 years ago, to be exact. If you were to come to my house, you would meet my 21-year-old son, and he's the reason why I didn't run that year. For years, I sat at home and I watched our county government. I know better than to read sensationalized journalism, so I watch meetings. And I remember our chairman bringing the meetings to light by having cameras turned on in these chambers, and I thank you today for that. All of the citizens should. Until that, I went to meetings. I went to rallies. My kids were so sick of it. And I always taught them that it was good to stand up for what you believed in, and if you were honest, nothing bad was going to happen to you. And I believe that still today, despite what we're going through this week. When I was sitting around wanting to run again, my youngest of the four finally was in kindergarten, and I thought, okay, I can do this. I can take my time and I can bring my efforts to the county. Doesn't bring me any personal gain. I really have always wanted to do this. I was the president of my kindergarten class. I was in Lynn Larson's Student Senate, which is kind of funny now when you think about it. President of student government in the junior high here, president of the Young Republicans. This is not anything new to me. I've been in these chambers since I moved up here, coming to meetings, watching past commissioners, seeing what they've been doing. I wanted to run in 2012, and my county commissioner, Herb Lemkool, decided he wanted one more term. And I thought that's not how you go into leadership. You don't challenge an incumbent and start out on the wrong foot. You take the time. And I was grateful that year to be elected to county parks and get to step my way into county government, you know, dipping my foot in the water a little bit. And I'm grateful for that experience to this day, and I still am thrilled to serve on that board. But for those 2 years, Herb will tell you, I followed you damn near everywhere. I was at every event in the county. I was campaigning for other people. I became a member of way too many committees, more than I even want to think about. It's almost embarrassing. I spoke up. I was in the paper. I spoke at that podium more times than people wanted to hear from me. You may not like me, but you sure as hell know how I feel about county government. I ran on the most open platform of anybody that I can think of, except for these two other people on each side of me. So Herb served his time, and I went to all those events, and I decided I wanted to run. Herb and his wife were going to have to get their time, their retirement time, and my children were older, and I thought, you know, naivete. I thought, well, if you're honest and you're truthful, well, you can sure as hell serve in government, right? And I brought my kids to these things, and they met all of the leaders, and I told all of them, you know what, moms can do this too. And my kids were proud, and they were here, and they were watching every step of it. So as we all decided to form our campaigns, I was the very first person to file my campaign finance committee, December 1st of 2013 for the 2014 season. And it was kind of funny, and we all kind of joked about it. The second person to file is sitting in the front row, Mr. John Roth. I openly supported his campaign against Commissioner Wheelock. I openly supported his campaign against Commissioner Wheelock. I also openly supported the campaign of Ms. Maxbauer, Dr. Lathrop, Dr. Johnson, and Carol Crawford. And you know why I did? Because I did what each and every person in this audience should do, and that is, don't watch the highlight reel on the news. Don't read the Record Eagles coverage of it, but get to know each and every person running for government and what they stand for. Again, you might not like me, and you might not have wanted to vote for me, but every single person knew what I stood for. What I stood for is exactly what is printed in this December 23rd ticker article. New commissioners seek to reboot county leadership. And there's my picture right there. And in the Chamber Forum, and in the Record Eagle articles, and in the Ticker Forum, you can read about this loudmouth girl that supported the Hartman-Hammond Bridge, believed in traffic infrastructure. She also believed in budgeting for outcomes. She believed in tackling the unfunded pension liability, looking at the salary and classification struggles of our staff. Number one for me was, why was our staff circulating? And I also believed in bringing an 800 megahertz county radio system to this county. I openly, maybe a half dozen or more times, spoke very loudly, probably to Mr. Benda's disregard, that I felt that we didn't market the surcharge properly. I felt that the citizens did not get what they were marketed for in that 911 millage. I very openly spoke about the Cass Road Bridge. If there is anybody in this county that does not know how I feel about the Cass Road Bridge project, they certainly haven't been paying enough attention to criticize me for violating anything. If you are unaware of my feelings about the CPO contract, again, I encourage you to just have gone to one meeting before you joined on the bandwagon to accuse me of a crime. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about someone who believes so much that I told my little kids who are at home watching right now that if you tell the truth and you stand up for what you believe, nothing bad can ever happen to you. 4 months of bad things have happened to me and my family because I sought to reboot county leadership. Here's your secret meeting right here, everyone. Ultimately, what this boils down to is 5 people that openly campaigned, 6, I will add John in as he was with us until his primary defeat by 80 votes. 6 people that just happened to have the same idea, that honest people should be in office, that the good old boys network damaged our county, that the 18 names that are signed on this letter have put us exactly in the position we're in right now. So if I were to just keep the same leadership, if I were to keep the same budget, if I were to continue on as things have been for 18 years, as we hear from Commissioner Wheelock every single meeting, I would have been breaking my campaign promise. So you know what these 5 people are guilty of? Keeping their campaign promise. I know it's a new idea for government America, but there's 5 people that aren't going to be beat down by sensationalized journalism, and 5 people that never were asked or given the opportunity in an open meeting to say why. They were charged with something, and a complaint was filed by a person that allegedly wanted answers, yet never asked the questions. All of this sensationalism and drama could have been avoided, and my sincerest apologies to Mr. Benda, because the reason I didn't speak at last meeting was because of the golden rule. How would I want to be treated if I was Dave? Dave has done a good job. It is not philosophically where I think the decision should be, but does that mean he is delinquent in his job? No. Does it mean that he deserves to have had us have to say all of this? No. He did not deserve this. And because for whatever reason, a political revenge or some sort of personal problem, we now have had Mr. Benda be the eye of the storm, and it never should have been. I am so profoundly disappointed in what is happening right now to these members of this board. We made a promise, we campaigned openly. If you didn't know what we stood for, you weren't paying attention. The enthusiasm by this board during Mike Muha's presentation on governing for outcomes was actually pretty nerdy and embarrassing, to be honest with you. I think I mocked Carol Crawford on this. But what was so cool was that for years I've sat home going, I can balance my checkbook. I can run my business. Why can't the government do this? You know what? They can. 5 of us believe that they can. And you know what, America? We're going to vote the same on things again. It doesn't take a secret meeting to have 5 people to go, this county is messed up. I have ran on a platform that this county is broken. Why would I vote for something that isn't going to fix it? And why would the 4 other people that ran on the same platform probably not vote on the same thing as well? This is not, I wish it was Melrose Place, but it's not. It's just a bunch of nerds that like government and budgeting and really think this is going to work. And you know what? If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's the beauty of this political process and what I teach my kids. We right now, overwhelmingly, were elected by a majority of the citizens because they were sick of business as usual. I ran on no more status quo. I was going to make bumper stickers unnecessary. I was unopposed. That's not the point. The point is no more status quo. If you're sick of the way things are, stop looking for conspiracies and start joining the ones that are willing to stand up and change things. Together, I believe this system will work. It requires staff, who I think the world of here. It requires citizens. I am one. I'm not some politician. I'm just a mom that decided to get angry about the budget and run for office. And I believe in these people sitting around me. We didn't take a secret meeting to happen to run up into each other because we happen to be in a lot of the same events. And we started yapping, and I met Dr. Johnson, and I thought we were like fast old friends, you know? We basically said almost the same thing, and I loved talking to him. You know what? We're going to vote the same on things. Is it collusion? No. We happen to have a lot of the same ideas about things. Dr. Lathrop has been a blessing in my life. Miss Maxbauer, Miss Crawford, I can't tell you, first of all, how grateful I am to work with them and how grateful I am to call you friends. I did not violate the Open Meetings Act. I just carried out my campaign promise, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Dr. Johnson?
Yeah, after all this has been said, the vote really was as simple as it could be. We had options. We either renew the contract, we don't renew it, we fire him. There's nothing to fire. He can walk away. That's the 4 options in the contract. We simply chose to not renew the contract. And to me, what was a high road as we could take without, going through the public display that everyone, I think, would not want in their own life, so.
At this time, I'll call for a roll call vote, please, Bonnie.
Madam Chairman, can I speak, please?
Yes, Commissioner Wheelock?
For me, this problem is that on the Ways and Means Committee agenda, it said to review the county administrator's contract. There was no mention about a vote to terminate that contract, to non-renew that contract. There was no draft motion in there or draft resolution in there. It was strictly a matter that it said we were going to review the contract. If this discussion that happened tonight had happened 2 weeks ago, we would have never went through the last 10 days. But we didn't. We heard a motion that was previously prepared, was not provided to any of us ahead of time, or at least not to me ahead of time. We heard a motion, we heard a second. Ron made a comment about the fact that he'd heard from a number of employees that they thought David was doing a good job. I made a couple comments about some of the things that I think we've been able to succeed with under David's leadership. Carol asked about budgeting for outcomes. We called for a vote. If this discussion that happened tonight had happened 2 weeks ago, none of us had to have went through the last 10 days.
Roll call, please, Bonnie. The motion is the resolution of intent not to enter into a new employment agreement with the county administrator.
Crawford?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Kropa?
Yes.
Wheelock?
No.
Klaus?
No.
Maxbauer?
Yes, motion passes. Department action items, planning and development, long-range capital improvement plan. Mr. Syke.
Good evening, John Syke, Planning and Development Director for Grand Traverse County. I won't take up too much of your time on this. I did the presentation back on April 15th at the Ways and Means Committee regarding the long-range capital improvement plan. Gave you time to review it. I haven't heard any comments back from anybody. I think the document really does not necessarily bind the county in terms of action, but really is just a list of priorities that will be required to be evaluated as they're considered But the long-range plan is available on the county website. There's also the appendix, which has all the supplemental documentation. I'm just here tonight to recommend that you consider that plan for adoption or approval.
All right, is there a motion? Commissioner Coropa?
First of all, thank you. You know how much I appreciate and enjoy the planning department here at the county. And I have read the plan, and it gives us a good outline to work from. And this is going to be important in moving forward with our budgeting process and strategic plans and everything. So thank you. And with that, I move to accept the capital improvement plan presented to Grand Traverse County, 2015.
Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Wheelock. Discussion. Commissioner Crawford.
I do like in that it is a plan, it isn't absolute. I like that there are different options and different scenarios in here, because they all, there's all different outcomes for all of it. So it does give a lot of things to consider, not just here's what we want to do and do it or not. So I do like that you've really covered all of the different options. So thank you.
Dr. Lathrop?
It's your usual good job. Thank you.
All right. Any more? All those in favor say aye. I'm sorry. Aye. I'm sorry, Commissioner Wheelock.
It's fine. I was just going to note that we've been very fortunate. I've had the opportunity to sit on this capital improvement plan since 2008, I believe.
Yes.
We are very fortunate to have very highly qualified staff to help us with this process. John Syke has been a great asset to us. Dean Bott and David have been very big contributors. And let us not forget Danny Brown, our facilities director, because without his day-to-day assessments of our facilities and our properties, there's no possible way we would even be able to get close to a comprehensive plan like this.
All right. I'm going to call for the vote one more time since. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right, Administration Finance. Claims.
You have on your desk the claims for the month of March 2015 that I need your approval on. We missed this at the board meeting last month. Those claims total $6,812,115.11.
All righty.
Madam Chairman, I would move to approve March claims in the amount of $6,812,115.11.
Is there support? Supported by Dr. Johnson. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion passes.
The next, you also have the April 2015 claims, which are through today's check run and the April benefits. You note there's a significant difference from March to April, and I generally like to point out why those numbers vary that much. But in the immediate payments, you'll see a $5.8 million check run. That was the purchase of the delinquent taxes primarily that the county treasurer does. We buy the delinquent real taxes from all of the local units through our tax revolving fund. And then on the 29th, today's check run, we made the final disbursements of the road millage to both the road commission, the city of Traverse City, and the two villages, which are included in those numbers. So I'm asking for your approval of the total claims for the month in the amount of $15,675,906.63.
Dr. Johnson?
I move that we approve the April 2015 claims as presented.
Support?
Supported by Commissioner Crawford. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. All right. Resolutions. Required to issue bonds for the Acme Township Road Improvement Project. I really wish I had remembered my glasses.
Can I walk you through this then?
Yes.
There's actually two resolutions here, and just to back up, at Ways and Means, we did have Acme Township here explaining the request that's for the improvements to 2.7 miles of roads in Acme Township. Actually, on page 91, I have my memo from that meeting, which really explains the project, but it is funded in part by Acme Township. The Road Commission is also funding the project to the tune of $250,000. Going back then, the county has to, the Board of Commissioners has to approve these bonds. They're actually Road Commission MTF bonds, but it does require County Board of Commissioner approval. And the two resolutions that we have here tonight, there is one regarding a continuing disclosure requirement, which is something we do on all of our bonds. If the board would choose not to approve the issuance of the bonds, we don't need to do that resolution. So I'm asking for your approval on, I'd like to do the bond resolution first, but before we get to that, the last item that's in this section is a rating upgrade. We worked with, and this work was done by the Road Commission, and they did a specific issue, but you'll see from that, which is on page, I think it starts on page 92. Our rating went from AA, and this is a Standard & Poor's rating, to AA+. That is an improvement, and that will lower our, when we sell the bonds, that will result in a lower interest rate on those bonds. So that the timing is perfect.
All right.
So with that, I would ask for your approval, and the Road Commission, let me not miss that point, did approve their resolutions on April 21st of this month. So everyone has done their piece to this point. The township has approved this, the Road Commission has approved it. They have some contracts that they'll actually have in place with the township, but at this point in the process, we need to approve both the continuing disclosure resolution and the bond resolution, and that should be done as two separate actions.
Okay, Commissioner Crawford.
I would move that we approve the bond resolution to issue bonds on behalf of Acme Township.
Is there support?
I'll support it.
Supported by Dr. Lathrop. Discussion. All those in...
Wait, I have
Yes?
a question. On the recommendation, it says attached resolutions, plural. Are we
We're doing
approving-
one
doing
first.
one at a
doing them
time.
separate?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
The bond
One
first.
didn't preclude another. Okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next resolution.
Carol.
Acme's my country, so
Yes, you're on a roll.
I would move to approve the resolution approving the undertaking to provide continuing disclosure by the County of Grand Traverse on behalf of Acme Township.
Is there support?
Me.
Supported by Dr. Lathrop. You're just too slow, Dr. Johnson.
Story of my life.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. All right. 2016
Madam
budget
Chairman,
process and
Dean,
timetable.
If you could, please, would
Yes.
you make sure that Standard & Poor's has proper information that Bill Rokas is no longer treasurer in Grand Traverse County?
I did
You know, I know Bill was
notice
here
that.
a long time, and
well,
it's a little
actually,
bit of a habit.
what will happen here, we'll do a rating review with both Moody's and Standard & Poor's before we market this bond issue, and I will definitely correct that. Good
All right.
catch.
All righty. Okay, next, 2016 budget process and timetable.
This is typically the time of year that we start the budget process, the traditional process, and to be honest, I didn't even want to come to you with this item, so, but Dave told me I could, and on behalf of all the department heads and the employees, we know that we're going to put a budget together, but we also realize that we're going to look at, an entirely different approach, but my suggestion is that while we are working with the GFOA, we continue with the process that the department heads, myself, and the employees are familiar with. There's not going to be any surprises. We know what the staffing plans are, but we really do need to start developing the 2016 budget. A lot of that, a lot of what goes into that, the labor contracts, will help develop the staffing plans, but this is, the timetable is similar to what we have done in the past, and it really gives myself and the department heads just a starting point. You're going to be working on an entirely different process, which we don't, necessarily
We
have all
clearly need to start, we need to, in my view, we need to continue with the
And
old
we
process
did not want to do that
until
without
we
having
move
your approval to move forward.
Do we need a motion?
Commissioner Crawford?
Oh, I was just going to say, the budgeting for outcomes process is a lengthy one. It requires a lot of community input and a lot of employee input, and I don't have any misconception that it would be done for the budget for 2016.
No.
So the budget for 2016, while we are aware that we're going to do something differently and can implement some of those theories, that really it's for the 2017 full budget to be done in that manner. The 2016 budget is going to have to be done
Okay,
with some modifications the old way.
yes. So do you want a motion, or is that good enough, Dean?
No, that's sufficient, and Dave reminded me, which we'll bring back in May, the board will have to adopt a calendar, but we'll bring that back
Okay,
early next month.
all right. Next, the Cass Road Agreement Waiver of Conflict. Yes, I would like Mr. Cooney, if you don't mind, to address this, Dave.
Yes, Carrie Zeitz works for the Road Commission as their attorney, and she works in the same office as the Human Resources Council that we typically use, and they pointed that conflict out to us. Now, it isn't improper for attorneys in the same office to be on different sides of well, it'd be improper if they're on different sides of the same contract. Here, what they can do is build what we call a Chinese wall. In other words, they don't discuss confidentialities that the Road Commission might have or the county has. And so this is merely pointing out that there's a conflict there, and if you're uncomfortable at all with our Human Resources Council being in the same office with the counsel for the Road Commission at the time that we're negotiating the Cass Road Agreement, then this would be the time to raise that concern. I personally, I don't have any concerns about that, and I'm sure both attorneys will be professional and respect the fact that they and not share those confidences.
And if Mr. Cooney, who's experienced with both of the attorneys, says he doesn't have a problem with it, I don't have a problem with it. Do you need a motion, Bob, or just Dr. Johnson?
I was just going to say, if you can't trust an attorney, what can
What?
There's got to be a joke in here somewhere, like
Nope.
two attorneys and a commissioner
Yeah.
walk into a bar. No.
Well, yeah, we're asking that you approve a waiver of any conflict of interest.
All
Madam
right.
Chairman, I would move to pass the waiver of conflict of interest for Janice Adams, who represents the county on personnel matters, and the Road Commission attorney Carrie Zeitz, who both work for Smith and Huey.
support?
All right, moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Dr. Johnson. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Leah contract renewal. Dave?
Weren't you going to handle this?
Or Dean?
I can take this. Chris Kramer briefed me on this. This is a renewal of our, this is the entity that tapes our meetings for us. Our current contract expired at the end of February. This is a one-year renewal. There is a slight increase in the cost if we go over 15 meetings, which we generally don't do, and that's per the various committees that we have. You have three committees in your board meeting. We don't anticipate that we're going to get into that additional cost category unless we do have a lot of extra meetings, which none of us want.
No.
But if we do, we will definitely sit down with them and ask to, keep our cost to a minimum. So we're asking for you to approve a renewal of the contract with Leah for a one-year period through February 28th of 2016.
All right, is there a motion To approve the Leah contract.
I will make the motion to renew the Leah contract as presented.
I will support.
All right.
I
Moved
do
by
have one
Dr.
item of discussion.
Certainly.
Just to let the public know, if you were looking at this, because I'm sure everybody has a copy of the Leah contract on them. It has been brought to our attention, why don't we film all ad hoc committees? Well, this contract answers it. On behalf of the citizens, we choose wisely which meetings we charge for to film. Ad hoc committees are committees of 3 and/or 5 people. Those people do not deliberate, they simply come up with recommendations. Therefore, the public is not missing on any deliberation. However, all ad hoc committees are posted. You can find them on our website or individual. If COA has one or Parks has one, you can find them on their page. And any member of the public is welcome to any ad hoc committee that we have. And they all follow the same Open Meetings Act posting and minutes and that sort of thing. You'll also find the minutes for any ad hoc committee meeting going to full boards to be approved. So I just wanted to make that clear as of why you may not see ad hoc committees online, as I've been asked a few times. That is why we do pay using taxpayer funds for these meetings to be filmed. And I believe it's a good use of taxpayer funds to open up as much as possible. But we do have to draw the line because there is some months an inordinate amount of ad hoc committees, and I don't think we should be paying for those. But just so everybody understands what the difference is, they're not deliberating committees.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. All right, old unfinished business. A, community mental health discussion is going to be postponed to public health and safety. B, rental of office space in governmental center.
Sit back down, Dean.
Go too far.
After Ways and Means, I contacted the person I've been working with, and a 30-day notice did not work. They were not, the gentleman, his name is Kyle, said we simply can't do that. I then proposed, well, what about if we could give you 6 months firm, could you live with 30 days notice and then out after 6 months, or, yeah. He said that would work. I ran that by Chris Forsyth, and he said he could live with that. So what I'm asking for is consideration of extending the lease, which is one small office in the basement of this building, for 6 months for sure, with the clause in it that says after 6 months we can give you 30 days notice, and basically we're kind of committing to at least 7 months here. And I still think, depending on what we may or may not do with the basement, that's probably a reasonable time frame. They are looking for other office space. They could be gone in 3 months, but I really would ask for your consideration to do this. I don't believe we'll be moving anyone in down there within that time if we are able to use that space. So that would be the revised plan of.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Wheelock.
Madam Chairman, I would move to authorize staff to enter into a contract with the Environmental Protection Agency for a 6-month lease and thereafter a 30-day notice for their office space currently occupied in the basement of this building.
Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Klaus.
I have a question.
Commissioner Kropa.
It's for Dean, when you have a moment. What if we break this lease? What's the penalty for us if some magic thing happens and we're able to get COA going, or anything going in the basement? What kind of penalty do we face?
That would have to be negotiated. I certainly wouldn't, I don't think I would even allow for that. I mean,
Okay.
in terms of, I have to work with Chris on this. I don't draft our contracts, but I really think the GSA here who is handling this, it's another governmental entity for the EPA. I don't expect them to be here that long, and they're actually trying to have the person who's there work out of her home. So I'm
And
really
they're openly aware of the situation. We aren't, I mean, I just don't want to enter into a contract with someone that doesn't understand in case they don't spend their free time watching meetings, talking about basements.
Yeah, this is not, you know, I don't want you to think I'm being real soft with the federal government here, but if they would have given us a little more notice too, I mean, they didn't even ask to renew this until about 2 months before. Maybe we're going too far with them on this, but they've been a good tenant, and I really don't think we're gonna be able to
Okay.
move that quickly on the basement.
We aren't setting ourselves up for something terrible, though. I mean,
No, Chris won't let me do that.
that's true. Dave knows, maybe Dave knows.
Well, if you think about it, probably the worst thing that could happen is you'd be asked to pay for the difference between the current rent and whatever new rent they'd have to pay for the remainder of the contract. So it's really unlikely that anything's going to happen within the next 3 or 4 months. And if it was 2 months worth of, additional rent.
Commissioner Wheelock?
Well, we also talked about, when we had this discussion previously, the distinct possibility that we could find them square footage space somewhere else other than in the basement, if in fact we move quickly enough to need to vacate their lease, we would be able to find them, office space somewhere else in one of our facilities.
The good news is Dean gets his honorary realtor's license if he only puts 3 more hours of work into it.
Oh, no. Don't want that.
Well, you've done a great job, so thank you on behalf of us for being a broker agent, which wasn't in your job description.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Planning Commission appointment update.
This is me.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Commissioner Kropa, go.
Chris Kramer kept me up to date on this. In our RMNA meeting, we did approve the recommendation of the ad hoc for the reappointment of the 2 planning commissioners. And if you remember, there was a separate motion to appoint Sue Kelly to replace Scott Hardy as the TCAPS board representative. Sue Kelly has been attending the Planning Commission meeting since January 1st, and because that motion was not made retroactively for her, she is not eligible to receive her per diems for going to that meeting from the beginning of the year. So since it was just in committee, they asked our full board to make a different motion to list the specific period that she was appointed for, rather than just the remaining thing. And Bob, I did have a question for you, since this was done in committee and the motion passed unanimously. The motion, is it on our consent calendar? I'm not sure. Do we have already a motion from the committee? Can we just make a new motion, or do we have to do something to not receive that motion? That's what I was concerned about.
It didn't come to us on the consent calendar.
It did not come to us?
You'd have to, I guess,
Are we
add
sure?
it to the agenda here, if that's what you're asking.
It is on the agenda.
Planning Commission appointment update.
I just make a motion to make the appointment because it didn't come to us on the
It
consent
didn't
calendar.
come on, well, then how about Commissioner Albers and Commissioner, I'm sorry, her name, I can't remember how to pronounce her last name.
Sarna Salzman.
Salzman, I'm sorry, I couldn't remember how to pronounce her last name. If their appointments also were on there, and they aren't on the consent calendar, so.
I thought we already discussed those.
I thought we did those.
But we did those
We
and
discussed them at a committee
At a
meeting. They
committee.
didn't come to the board on consent calendar.
they didn't come to the full board, so,
They have to be approved by the full board.
Right.
So, you could make the motion tonight to approve Sue Kelly, and I suppose maybe we go back and look at the other 2 to see if they were properly approved.
Yeah, but I believe they were at our committee meeting.
Well,
I
But they have to be approved here.
they have to
No, I mean,
be,
yeah,
or they
they-
can be for immediate approval. Perhaps we did them for immediate approval, and that's, I bet Chris Kramer is at home right now yelling at the TV because she knows the answer.
yeah, I'm sure she is.
I just didn't want to go through this without acknowledging Commissioner Albers and Commissioner Salzman, so.
Why don't I just make a motion to appoint Sarna Salzman, Peter Albers, and Sue Kelly to the Planning Commission effective immediately? And if
Sue's
we-
can't be effective immediately.
Sue's,
It
what?
has to be retroactive, that was the problem.
All right.
Because she's been at meetings since January.
I will make a motion to appoint Peter Albers and Sarna Salzman to the Planning Commission effective immediately.
I will support.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I can make the motion to appoint
Pat,
Sue Kelly
go.
to replace Scott Hardy as the TCAPS Board Representative on the Grand Traverse County Planning Commission for a term beginning January 1st, 2015, and expiring December 31st of 2017?
It says 16.
2016, yes.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Coropa, supported by Commissioner Crawford. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
So to Ms. Kelly, I hope we did everything correctly.
I hope so too. And Chris Kramer will let us know tomorrow morning if we didn't.
Yep.
God help us.
All right, Administrator Controller Separation Agreement and Release. You want to touch on this, Bob?
Yeah, Mr. Benda and Commissioner Max Bauer did meet with Deputy Civil Counsel Chris Forsythe, and Mr. Forsythe put together this separation agreement. Mr. Benda did indicate at that time that he preferred to exercise his option under the contract to make his termination or separation date, I should say, effective May 1st of 2015. And so that's in paragraph 1 of the contract. Paragraph 2 details the payments that are made under the agreement, the severance amount, which is $94,051.84, in return for which there's a full release of any liabilities in paragraph 3. You should know that under the Older Workers Benefit Protection Act, he gets, by law, 21 days to consider the terms of the agreement before signing, and so he can't be, we can't revoke the offer of this contract for at least 21 days if you approve the terms of this separation agreement. And there was some talk about a non-disparagement clause. I think in order for that to be effective, commissioners would have to approve both personally as well as a board. So you'd sign individually in order for it to bind you. And I don't know whether that's something, I know it was discussed between Mr. Benda and Commissioner Max Bauer, but I don't know whether that's something that the board is interested in. I did want to point out that because the effective date is May 1st, I don't know what the board's plan is as far as whether they're thinking about appointing an interim administrator. There are some considerations you might want to think about if we do not have an interim administrator. There's no requirement that you have an administrator. There are actually some counties that don't. But the primary concerns I would have, as you know, we do not have a human resources director at this time, and so it would fall upon the board to make decisions about whether to hire or fire a department head. Purchasing decisions between $2,000 and $10,000 and signing of purchase orders is another function that you'd want to assign to some, probably assign to the Dean Bott, at least, unless you were going to appoint him as the interim administrator. Step 3 grievances go to Dave. Maybe we won't have any for a while here, but FOIA and coordinating with outside counsel on lawsuits, that's something that Dave does. And the meetings that he attends, and I think the county has to be involved with IT and dams issues in particular in Cass Road, have to be considered. And so those responsibilities would all fall on the board unless you either appoint an interim administrator or assign those functions to department heads, because you could do it piecemeal as well. So.
We have gone through an administrator change during my terms on the board, and Dean has acted for us as interim administrator in concert with support from department heads. I would like us to go in that direction initially. Dr. Johnson?
Is there any increase in pay for him to take on these additional duties?
Yes. And also, since we do not have an HR department head at the moment, I would like to certainly encourage Dean to contract out, if at all possible, that position initially. Traditionally, administrators like to come in and choose their own department heads. So I would hate to, if we can contract that out right now, I think that's probably going to be the best route that way. Commissioner Klaus?
Is Dean willing to step up and help us out there? I mean, we're making an assumption that he is.
It's up to you, Dean. You don't have to.
Please.
You know, it's hard for me to give you an answer right now. I mean, Bob has given you good advice. With, you know, not having a human resources director, an HR director is, I mean, you've got so many things that are going on. I did step in 2012 for almost 4 months, and there's more, it's more than one person can handle. I will tell you this, I mean, as far as if there are things that could be assigned to me, you know, in terms of purchasing, we do some of that together or jointly, but I honestly, I think I need to tell you what I should tell you. I don't know how that's possible, to be both your finance director, working with the departments on the budget process. That's just too much to do.
Can you give us a month to find an interim administrator?
Well, I will do whatever I can do. You know, if there's things that need to be assigned to me, I don't know how that would work. I'm going to be here. I think we all have to be just very clear on what it is you're asking me to do, because I have a full-time
I know
job
you do.
as it is. The department heads and the employees will work to support whatever the board, you know, what direction you send us on, but there are limits on, you know, what you can do. The biggest concern I have right now, again, is, you know, we're interviewing tomorrow. We're just starting the process for the human resources director. I'm involved in that. The dam project, the dam removal is ongoing. You know, maybe we can somehow split things up.
Can we get a list of the items that you just mentioned, Mr. Cooney? And then we can perhaps divvy it up?
I don't see any reason why Dean couldn't assign, you know, going to these meetings on the dams or those kind of meetings to someone like John Syke. Or, you know, if there's a lawsuit, you know, our office can certainly be there to consult with legal counsel about what's going on with those. Those are some ideas of how you could make the job a little less imposing for Dean.
Dr. Johnson?
First, I was going to say John's left, so we can tack anything on
That's it,
that we want.
Yes, we can.
I mean, we can also, I mean, as a board here, we could do whatever special meetings we needed to also.
Yes.
I mean, that goes along with the vote that we made to take that responsibility.
Yes. Dr.
not a
Crawford.
I mean,
I was thinking of you and Peter.
If there are meetings and things that need a representative, you know, I think all of us would be willing to step into if there are finance things, or, you know, I can step more into the budgeting process. Absolutely. You know, there are things that each one of us is good at different things. So I think that in the interim, you know, there are possibilities of department heads and possibly some commissioners just filling in here and there to keep things rolling in the interim.
Dr. Lathrop.
I haven't talked to her but I would wonder about asking Paula Segala to be contracted as interim.
Fill us
She's
in
done
on
it
who-
before.
Who is this person?
Paula Segala is a professional HR person, and she has filled in for Jen Seaman before for the county. And didn't she do it at the city?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's really, she also did for Beta, when they were doing all their changes, she was a human relations person there. Human resources person, rather. I haven't talked to her, but she's a wonderful resource, and she could be used temporarily on a contract basis if she was willing.
She just got back from Florida.
Yeah, she just got back from Florida, so she might be ready. Help us out.
Imagine
She's a
that.
community-minded person.
Okay.
Dean.
Commissioner Wheelock.
Madam Chairman, I could be wrong, but I think we're talking about Plan B, and the item that's on the agenda is the separation agreement.
That is so true.
I
All right.
I think we need to finish the discussion and a
Thank you.
motion and vote about the separation
Thank you for
agreement.
redirecting
And
me.
then we try to create Plan B.
Yes.
We're getting,
All
we
right.
digressed.
Is there a motion regarding the separation agreement and release of the administrator/controller? Dr. Johnson. Moved by Dr. Johnson. Is there support? Supported by Dr. Lathrop. Discussion. Roll call, Bonnie.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Kropa,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Klaus,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Max Bauer.
Yes. Okay.
Now we need to talk about Plan B.
Well, let's finish the agenda and put Plan B under new business. Let's reinstating the county clerk's name on AP and payroll checks. That needs to be done.
Because the controller will be leaving, it must be reassigned to the clerk at this point.
Okay.
Motion to reinstate the county clerk's name to all payroll and accounts payable checks.
Support?
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Dr. Johnson. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry,
Dean had
Dean.
something to say.
Just, this is one thing that, Bonnie was on this, or aware that we needed to make this. We've been working with IT and the treasurer, and we have this ready to go. The signatures are electronically imprinted on the checks. We had recently just purchased a new stock of the accounts payable checks, but the bank is going to honor the signatures that we tell them will be the authorized, so it's going to work fine. But yes, after May 1st, we need to have different signatures on the check, so we're good on this one. We'll take issues one at a time.
Okay. If we're going to talk about an interim administrator, we need to modify the agenda. So first, Dr.
We still have a
Johnson.
motion on the floor.
Oh, we didn't vote on that?
Did we vote?
voted.
No, we
Well,
stopped
we
because
did,
Dean,
but we
Oh, I'm
stopped for
sorry.
Dean's comment.
All those in favor of reinstating the county clerk's name on the payroll checks?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we need a motion to add interim administrator under new business. Is there a motion to modify the agenda to discuss an interim administrator under new
Do we want to
business?
finish the old business first?
I thought we just did.
Did.
Okay.
I will move to add discussion of interim administrator under new business.
Support.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The agenda is amended. Okay, under new business, interim administrator. We're going to need one.
Or many.
And Dr. Lathrop.
Well, part of this is, maybe I'm out of order here, tell me if I am. Part of this is having somebody in HR.
Yes.
So would I be appropriate to make a motion, would it be inappropriate for me to make a motion to ask Paula Segala to consider taking that position.
We
Here comes
have,
Wendy.
we have Wendy coming on.
Wendy's volunteered to be the interim administrator.
That's not why I'm here.
Careful when you stand up
Wendy,
to the
go.
microphone.
I know. Wendy Trute, Health Officer. I just wanted to make you aware of the process that we have started for the HR director and want to get guidance from you because we're starting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and we have, I believe, 9 or 10 Skype interviews set up to initially kind of weed through the top candidates. There are 5 department heads that were pulled together, Dean, myself, Carol Stocking, Nate Eldra from the Sheriff's Department, and Sally Draves from HR. And we've already met, I think 2 weeks ago, reviewed resumes, kind of made the
And
top choice.
the interviews are scheduled for tomorrow?
Tomorrow,
I would
starting
say-
at
I would say
9.
absolutely go for the interviews.
So I just wanted to know whether or not you wanted us to proceed, and we
But-
could certainly slow it down after that first round if
But
that's.
I guess my concern was if we can get somebody in here like tomorrow that is experienced under contract, that would be wonderful until we get a full-time HR director.
Okay, I just wanted to know what we should do with.
Dr. Johnson and then Commissioner Carroll.
I mean, what kind of
Crawford.
time frame are you going to have 2 rounds of interviews or 3? Just,
Two.
At least 2.
so you're talking probably less than a month, we'll have somebody on board?
We'll have somebody identified. Depends how quickly they
Like
can
how
leave their.
quickly they
yeah,
can come.
they can
Yeah.
leave their current.
Okay.
That's hard to predict.
'Cause I mean, I guess if it's, could be possible by the end of May, I don't know, how's it being handled now? Is HR doing the bulk of it without
Yeah,
a?
Sally and the staff, they've been, down as many as 2 FTEs. They've recently filled one position, but, the HR director is a key position. Sally Dreves has really been carrying a tremendous load in that office. I don't know how she does it, but we're not gonna, we won't dally on this
Okay.
by any means, but, I think one thought I had, I mean, you do have regular committee meetings, and, for a short period of time, you can probably take things that normally your administrator would handle, bring them right to your committee for approval, if there are things that department heads can't do or that I'm not authorized to do, but that probably doesn't work well, very long. But, the other concern I have, I think we'll fill the HR position, or at least that's the plan, within maybe a month to 6
Okay.
weeks. But it's going to take you some time to, perhaps, it may take you some time to come up with your county administrator, or even an interim, depending on how long that process goes. So there's just a lot of unknowns, and I'm going to have my hands full with
Okay.
the budget and, purchasing. A lot of the things I probably can do, and I know John Syke may be able to help with the IT meetings, but there's still a lot that happens every day that has to be
We'll
dealt with.
get on finding a new interim, or an interim administrator as quickly as possible, Dean.
Do we need to make a motion to transfer the ability for Dean to approve purchases that the administrator normally would?
Do we need to do that, Dean?
Yes, you should.
Okay.
Well, except Dean is already listed as a deputy administrator, correct?
The problem is, under the purchasing policy, it doesn't say that the deputy administrator just steps into the shoes of the administrator. And so I think you need a motion to approve his authority to do those things.
Okay.
I will make a motion to give our finance director the power to approve purchases between $2,000 and $10,000 as listed in the county purchasing policy.
Is there support? Supported by Dr. Johnson. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. You can go
Is there
shopping now,
anything
Dean.
else dangling right now, Bob,
Sir.
that you can think of that we need to take action on immediately to help the
I just wanted to
staff?
suggest that, if you did appoint Dean interim administrator, you could have authority to hire Paul Zagala if he needed to. You'd have to ask you for permission to do that, but I'm sure you'd go along with that. So that's one idea, if he thought he needed someone sooner because they're not having any luck finding a human resources director.
I just want to take as much burden off of Dean right away as humanly possible. That's my only goal here.
Yeah.
Well, you know that while Jen was on maternity leave, Paula quite successfully handled all this. And that's what I'm thinking, if we somehow, if she wants to, we somehow bring her aboard, that would unload Dean quite a bit right there for the time being.
Commissioner Wheelock, you had your hand up?
My only comment was, we meet every single Wednesday, maybe we try to put together a little bit of some guidelines about, this, how we want to handle this interim situation, not to mention, we need to deal with, staffing, we have 550 employees. There are employee issues every day. I'm absolutely confident of that. But we need to talk about how we're going to handle that in the meantime. We also need to start determining whether or not the job description that we currently have for the administrator is what we want to advertise. We need to start identifying where we're going to advertise for those positions, what timelines we're going to do. Those are jobs that we would normally ask our HR director to do, but we don't have one. So, and Sally stepped up huge in that department, and I think that somewhere along the way, we need to figure out a stipend way to compensate her for the extra responsibility that she's taken up. But the simple fact is, we as a board need to give immediate direction to whether or not, whether we're talking about an interim super administrator or how we're going to hire a new administrator. We need to evaluate what their duties and responsibilities are going to be and how we're going to go about selecting that person.
You are exactly correct, Commissioner Wheelock, but we are not probably going to do all of that this evening. I am going to make a motion to ask Dean Bott to contact Paula Segala and contract with her for her services as soon as she is available, if she's willing.
I second it.
Okay, Dr. Johnson.
And this is for the interim HR director?
This is just to so that we have an experienced HR person. She's worked for the county before. She knows, she did it when, as Dr. Lathrop said, when Jen was on maternity leave. She can step in while the department heads are interviewing, because it's going to take, there's a process there. It's going to take, interviews, narrowing it down. If they're Skype interviews, chances are they don't live here. They're going to have to move. So, anyway, that's my motion and that's my reasoning. All right. No, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Okay. And yes, we are, Dave.
There's just one more thing, the Boardman River Dams implementation team. I'm the county representative on that board, and this board last year gave me some pretty broad powers to act on the county's behalf, to sign contracts on the county's behalf and do a number of things. There's a specific resolution that you need to look at. Someone should be assigned that duty, or you should at least take into account that there is no one to represent the county on that any longer. Dean has been going to those meetings, as has Danny Brown.
How about John Syke?
I'll make a motion.
He's not here, he can't defend himself. We can pick on him. Dr. Lathrop.
I make a motion that we ask John Syke if he would be willing to take over the IT position for Grand Traverse County temporarily.
Is there support? There's support by Dr. Johnson. Discussion.
I believe the point is that that Dean Bott and Danny Brown have been attending these meetings on behalf of Grand Traverse County for a number of years. I would think that possibly one of them would be a better representative to us than John is. And God knows I have all kinds of respect for John. It's just these other two people already have been involved on the county's behalf.
Dean, what is your feeling? I would defer to you.
Well, on this one, I'm trying not to take on too much, but I do think that it would make more sense for me to stay in that capacity.
Okay.
Maybe John could go to some of the meetings to help, and I know he's willing to do that, but that's one where John could pick it up, but, I mean, I've been involved in that. I make those meetings fit in my schedule. I've got a great staff,
Yes,
too,
you
which
can
deserves a
withdraw
lot of credit, but I do think it would make more sense to have me step into that.
I'll withdraw my motion.
I will withdraw my support.
Dean, Danny Brown has been going as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I can work that out with Danny, but
I mean, there's options for support for you.
yes.
So you need to make a motion that Dean has the ability to sign the contract.
Hang in there.
Okay.
You're withdrawing your...
I did.
You did,
Yeah.
okay. Legal counsel is telling me we need a resolution to authorize Dean to sign the legal papers
For IT.
for IT.
We'll draft the resolution.
You'll draft the resolution, you'll bring it to us at Public Health and Safety?
Yes.
Okay, so we will have it next Wednesday.
I assume it'll be for immediate approval then, too, so
Yes,
make sure that gets in there.
yes. Okay. Anything else? This is our second opportunity for public comment. Please. It is.
My name is Jill Rarig, and some of you already know me, and I'm from East Bay Township, Carol. I, of course, have been following what's been going on with this whole situation with, letting go of Mr. Benda, the conversations revolving around it. My main concern is I feel like there's major dysfunction going on. There's no clarity. I feel like as a citizen in this area that I have my question's not been answered as to what, I know maybe through this process of the budgeting process, there will eventually be a strategic plan. The citizens will be involved, there will be a plan. But that will be, as Carol mentioned, a whole nother year. In the meantime, I don't want to feel like in this community we're rudderless, okay, in this county. So I would like to know, and I think Sonny's brought it up earlier, what are the goals and what is the strategic plan for the next year until there's more involvement and a whole nother vision is processed. It's going to be, I'm not so sure there was a whole list of goals and a strategic plan for Mr. Benda to be clear about, probably. I think there's been miscommunications, cross purposes, so on and so forth. We need good leadership. Before we go any further, please, the community needs to know what are the county goals and what is the strategic plan, even if it's short-term, for this next year. Because the decisions have got to revolve around that. And then whoever the new administrator is going to be, whoever you're going to have interviews with, they're going to know what the expectations are. And you're going to be able to see whether there's a good fit or there's not. I think if there had been more clarity in the past, we wouldn't be in this situation. And Mr. Benda would still have a job, and we all be in a better state. Last comment I'm going to make, I'm a little incredulous that Mr. Benda's being let go. I know there's other issues, possibly, over a budgeting process. Blows my mind, okay? So communicate, please. I want to see goals. I want to see a strategic plan for the next year, and I will do my best to communicate that with whomever I have conversations with in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Megan Crandall, 417 West 12th Street. I do my best to stay on my side of the street. I also am a board member, also am dealing with over a $100 million budget. I am incredulous at this meeting. I don't know Mr. Benda. I don't know the county politics. I stay on that side. I understand that what's reported in the media isn't half of what's going on in real life. But I am most concerned that a transition process with Mr. Benda leaving as of this Friday, that it wasn't even on the agenda tonight, finding an interim person, or what to do in the meantime, or that it wasn't even a discussion this evening. I can't even imagine having the top administrator in the county go without a backup plan. Employees have complained over the last few years, both publicly and privately, of overreaching on the part of one or more commissioners. It is my fear that the absence of a chief administrator may exacerbate blurring of the lines of responsibility between a board of trustees and those employed to execute the board's decisions. This is a big issue. Unless I'm wrong, you're elected to make decisions and make policy. You hire people to carry those out. It concerns me when a possible solution is, well, we'll step in and we'll take on employees' responsibilities. That doesn't seem like a solution to me. Again, the fact that no one seems to have even asked Mr. Bott of his receptiveness to a thrown-together scheme is of even greater concern. Again, not even being on the agenda. And as for the per diems, tonight was probably not the best night to do that. Frankly, I attend 100 to 150 meetings or events for TCAPS every year, and I've never been paid a cent. I've missed 3 board meetings in almost 8 years. Never received compensation, nor would I accept it if it was offered. And I understood that when I was elected. So coming in within 4 months of being elected, some of you, and uncapping that per diem concerns me, particularly if you're going to take on responsibilities of employees. I don't even receive remuneration or travel reimbursement for the committee to which I was appointed by the governor, driving back and forth, as Ms. Maxbauer said, to Lansing. That, again, was my choice to take that on. I don't believe it's the taxpayer's responsibility to pay for that. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none. Notices.
I have something.
Commissioner Kropa.
I am appointed to the MAC Judiciary and Public Safety Committee and was down in Lansing on Monday. And I wanted to share a couple of the things at that meeting with our board because I think it directly relates to issues we're dealing with right now. The main topic of this committee was changing juvenile crimes from 17 to 18, which was really interesting, and it was mostly through the eyes of a lobbyist group. Ultimately, it looks as if you'll be seeing legislation for this starting in about the spring of next year. And I did call and talk to Chris Forsyth briefly about it. The interesting thing about this that I'd like to share with our board as we look forward to this possibility next year, 17-year-olds right now in Michigan is one of 9 states that automatically prosecutes 17-year-olds as adults. When they go into the adult system, that is covered by MDOC. When they go into the juvenile system, it is 50-50, the county and MDOC. And the real discussion at MAC was the idea of this unfunded mandate, where all of a sudden 17-year-olds will be in a system that inundates our already inundated county jail, and about the different programming that would be required by the state for them, and then the county takes on the cost for paying the payroll for those staff members and those programs too. And it's a pretty heated issue down there. A lot of people lobbying, but MAC didn't seem very interested in it at all, which was the idea I kind of got from Chris Forsyth. The idea behind it is that juveniles that receive these community programming are less likely to reoffend than adults that don't have the same kind of opportunities. But these programs cost, the jail for the juveniles cost, and that cost goes on to the counties. So I will be continuing to be at these meetings every month and certainly would like to hear input from anybody on it. The thing I mainly wanted to share with you was the Regional 911 Center update. As you know, Jason Torrey, our Deputy and Acting Director of 911, is interested in the idea of regionalizing our central dispatch with other counties, and we're one of many counties that are discussing this in the state of Michigan. The interesting thing is that the 911 surcharge that our county taxpayers voted for and passed last year, the reason why it's difficult to get an exact number as to how much you're going to raise is that there's no requirement for the telecommunication companies to list how many devices they actually own. They have said that it is, they said that it's their proprietary right to not disclose how many devices that they use. So the state is arguing about that right now. But what they think is that if you were to add up the total of non-disclosed devices in our state, we're talking in the millions of dollars that is not being given to 911 centers around. It was really an interesting discussion. I learned a lot and I enjoyed it. The John Campbell from MAC is also on the state's 911 committee. So that was very interesting. And then as far as legislative updates, just to give you guys a quick run as to what's going on there, there's a big, and I took really bad notes because I have terrible eyesight, but I'm going to read it. They are concerned about revenue sharing for the counties. Revenue sharing in reference to the child fund issue. Child care fund issue. Something about, it started with Chippewa County, and Chippewa County was late in some of their child care fund payments, and it resulted in revenue sharing being withheld or potentially being withheld. That was the discussion at this committee, and it was very heated as to whether we could potentially lose some of our revenue sharing in the future based on delinquencies by counties of their child care fund payments. It was eye-opening to listen to these discussions, and I really, well, I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve on it, but I will be going down monthly and listening to these updates, but there's quite a concern by counties based on what happened with Chippewa County, and I think that was mostly it. Wayne Schmidt's new bill was the highlight and the most interesting thing there. He has co-sponsored a bill to regulate the bicycle beer drinking pub thing downtown. And I sit with 20 other county administrators, commissioners, and judges on this panel, and 19 of them had no idea what this legislation was. So I pulled it up and showed them that we actually have this revolving bar downtown. So Wayne has co-sponsored it to look at just licensing and insurance and some sort of regulation of it. But that was kind of a highlight. Grand Traverse County was highlighted at MAC, which was very exciting. But I will keep you updated on the 911 device because Grand Traverse County could be looking at a check for what they find out from that. And then, of course, the child care fund with the revenue sharing, which is concerning when they hold revenue sharing over your head for any sort of thing. And that was a real concern by both the lobbyist and the county representatives there. So, and that was it.
Okay, Commissioner Klaus?
I just wanted to let everybody know that I received a phone call from a Mayfield Township farmer who had an opportunity to have Gwen Zagor out to his farm to make an inspection. And he told me that Gwen sets the bar quite high for our county employees and inspectors, and so it was real nice to hear. And thank you, Gwen.
Okay.
And then secondly, I was at the Blair Township last Friday. It had to do with the River Mountain Drain in Blair Township off of River Road. I didn't know what to expect when I got there. Other than there was already a drain district put in place. There was, in that drain district, there was 230 parcels of property in that district. There were 13 people that signed in for that meeting that was set at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. When we would have left that day, had that drain been approved, there would have been 230 parcels with the ability to be assessed fees for whatever it took to implement the drain, make repairs. I checked with the supervisor in Blair to find out how that meeting got set at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday while 200 other people would have been working. It was asked for by the drain commissioner. I don't know, to me, it's inexcusable if we're just trying to cater to the professionals that are coming in in the middle of the day to go to these meetings and state a case, and we're not giving the property owners the time in the evening to come and state their case. People can't afford to take off a half a day to go fight a battle that, if you read this here, this Board of Determination notice, it doesn't look like it's too, it's just another piece of paper. It was a big deal. It could have been a big deal. It was shut down, thanks to the board listening of determination, but I don't know what we need to do to stop this kind of stuff from happening, but this was the 5th drain approval, and all of them were in the middle of the day. I was at one at Long Lake Township as well. That one went through, but to me, it's appalling to set people up to have to assess some money on their property and not give them time other than if they want to take off work, they can go. So that's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Wheelock?
Two things. One, Elisa, just one point. If the state goes to 17, or if they go to 18 for adults, all of a sudden, all of the situations that we have with 17-year-olds cannot be housed in our jail. The law requires distinct separation between juveniles and adults. So all of those people that are 17 years old that have been involved in crimes, they won't be in our jail, but we're going to have to pay for them to be somewhere else. So that's going to come at a big price.
They said that we would incur the cost, but some of them that aren't sentenced to that long could end up in county. I don't believe our county has a juvenile facility. Am I correct in that?
No, we spend a couple $100 a day for most of the juveniles that go somewhere else that we're paying for.
Yeah, there was a different set of circumstances for counties with juvenile detention centers versus those without. But the main argument, and again, I will say, full disclosure, I was the only county representative north of, I believe, Grand Rapids on that board. So I think that they're dealing with a much different set of numbers than we are as far as their offenders. But
Percentages are probably the same.
yeah, it was very interesting to hear, and the word unfunded mandate is always thrown around, and it was thrown around on 4 or 5 different parts of this potential legislation. They are going to have hearings in the fall for this legislation, and anyone can go down and be a part of it or represent the county view. This group was slick. This lobbyist group was slick. They had fancy brochures. Yep.
I just wanted to point out, we had a juvenile charged as an adult, eventually sentenced as a juvenile, but we had to separate him from the general population, which was Schwano Center. And as much as we complain about $35,000 a year for prison, it was over $100,000 a year for the cost of appropriate programming and the detention center. So luckily, the county's only on the hook for half of that cost, but it is very expensive to provide that programming. And to do it right, the state has to pony up some money to appropriately treat these 17-year-olds. And, I'm all in favor if they really want to fix these individuals. But if they're just going to, saddle the county with that responsibility and not provide the funds to treat 17-year-olds with appropriate programming, then, yeah, it's just another unfunded mandate, and I would be very careful of that.
Right, and that's exactly what I said. It's a 50-50 split, and it changes a lot of things, but mostly it was about the referees that would be hired, the different kind of programs that they would be in, and this is all new to me. I'm learning. I'm not very well-versed in the world of juvenile crimes, but what I did learn was that it was exorbitantly expensive to deal with juveniles versus adults.
Well, and even at a 50-50 split, our price tag goes up huge.
Absolutely, and the state gets a nice cut, from what I understand. MDOC's budget would be a lot less.
To do it right, it's expensive. My concern is they don't want to do it right.
Exactly.
Well, I will certainly talk to you next time I'm down and it's on the agenda. It's an interesting discussion.
Another item, I don't know if everyone has received it. Captain Bob Hall has announced his retirement.
No.
I have the date on my desk. and
August.
Even if I can remember what it is.
August 3rd,
August 3rd.
3rd or 4th.
Wow.
And I see Todd left too. He was here tonight.
And, I know that, the process has started to, apply for his position. As you all know, we recently advanced Sergeant Ritter to fill Lieutenant Bucker Monroe's position, but Bob has announced his retirement. I think we all will be very sorry to see him go. He is without question one of the most qualified jail administrators in the country.
That's a huge loss for Grand Traverse County.
I spoke with him briefly yesterday. I had heard about it last week, and I had an opportunity to speak with Bob very briefly yesterday, and, express my, he has a number of issues why he's going. He has personal issues. His son has some significant medical issues, and his wife just needs to have him around, and so I certainly understand that, and I certainly support his decision, but it is truly going to be a difficult thing for us to deal with for a long time.
He will be missed greatly.
Truly.
All right. We also have on our agenda a notice of Civic Center South Open House, May 28th, from 1 to 3. We have a closed session. I would like to hear a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Yeah, you have to
You have to
state
state
it.
what the
You have to read it.
Okay.
Read it out
I
loud.
make a motion that we go into a closed session. Do I get to state what we're going to?
Yes.
Say for the purpose of.
Hold on. For straight, Whitney versus Grand Traverse County, update on pending litigation mediation.
All right, is there support?
I support.
Supported by Dr. Lathrop. Roll call, please.
Is this to consult with our attorney?
Yes, they're here. They're here. They've been wandering around in the
I was
hallway.
wondering who that guy was peeking in.
Roll call, please.
He looked
Lathrop?
like a lawyer.
Yeah.
Kropa,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Klaus. Crawford,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Max Bauer.
Yes.
And I assume we will not be making a decision coming out, so there probably will not be action
Correct.
on this. So everybody else can go home if they choose.
I really wish I would have remembered my chapstick. I know there's some ibuprofen.
I need a headache.